DK Metcalf from the Seattle Seahawks, and you're watching NorbCam.
Yo, what's up, everybody? This is NorbCam coming at you on this Wednesday afternoon, early evening. And it means, of course, it's another NorbCam Roundtable. Sadly, it is the post-mortem Roundtable, as we will be talking about this unfortunately final last game that the Seahawks had, losing to the Rams in the wild card 30-20 in not very promising fashion. I think we were all a little bit reeling from that loss. But that's why we're here. That's why we do the roundtable, so we can talk about it and feel a little bit better about our Seahawks and what we need to do to get better next season. Obviously, that's a big, long question, a lot of things to talk about, but we can at least start here and get the conversation going. So we are going to bring the roundtable group in just a minute. But first, I must do a quick shout out to my sponsor up here. As you can see here, right over my right shoulder, Daniel Dovin of Dovin Real Estate. There he is right there. He's been kind enough to support my channel throughout the rest of the 2020 football season, up to the Super Bowls and maybe beyond. But hopefully things will keep going. So check out Daniel Dovin here. In case you guys or your folks or anybody you know is in the market here in the Seattle area looking to buy or sell a house, go check him out at dovinrealestate.com. There's telephone numbers on the page there. And you can also look in the description where he's got a link where you can set up a consultation, because if you set one up and it's free, you'll be entered into a drawing where you can win a rookie card of Cortez Kennedy and possibly some DK Metcalf swag. All right, it's pretty cool, and I appreciate Daniel for doing everything he's doing to be part of the NorbCam Pham, and he's been a great fan as well as just being involved in this whole thing. So Chef Jack Attack wants to know in the super chat, are we doing calls? We'll not be doing calls on this show. I'm going to be doing something tomorrow where we'll be taking calls from you guys. Just so much to talk about. So many of us here, so little time. So we're going to just do that the next time. So without further ado, let me bring on the panel right here. Oh, there they are. It is the round table. We're minus Seahawks Martin, who will be joining us a little bit later because he's got to eat dinner and tickle the ivories, as they say. But of course, the ones we do have here, it's good to have the crew back. Starting from the top left, we've got DJ Squabo.
Yo, great to be in the house. It's my pleasure as always. Unfortunately, we have to meet on these circumstances. Trying to set the tone a little bit for, my energy today. Had to bring out the all black, because we got eliminated. But hopefully there's a lot of stuff that we have to look forward to. And I'm excited to talk about who our new offensive coordinator might be.
All right, let's do that. To his right, the coach of Coach's Corner, Coach Bill Marsh. Welcome back. Good to see you again, man.
Hey, great to see you. A long time no see. Obviously, it's been a quick turnaround for you and me, man. But as a famous CEO that I won't name, but he owns a team, used to say, I reserve the right to be better tomorrow. So I think that's going to be our outlook with the Seahawks, that they reserve the right, hopefully, to be better tomorrow. And they've already started making some moves. So excited to talk about that stuff. But yeah, bummer. But great to be back with the crew.
Absolutely. I think we all reserve the right to be better. And on this show, we're reserving the right to be better. And one of these days we're going to be on time. But I reserve the right to be on Filipino time when I start this show, because that's how we roll, right, baby. So anyway, continue along. To the bottom left corner, we've got the one and only Brian Abker, formerly of KJR Sports Radio. Brian, it's good to always see you, buddy, with the beautiful view in the background.
Hey, fellas. Yeah, coming to you live from the indoor-outdoor studio with the weather check after the major windstorms last night. All is calm in the seas right now, but things are not calm in the Seahawks postseason world, and we're going to get deep into that.
Oh, for sure. Is that the actual view right there?
Well, yeah, I don't know what you can see.
I see a car driving by and some night skies. Is that what you see?
Yeah, and then I don't know, maybe to your left you could see Seattle. I don't know if I have this thing positioned right, but next year
all right. I'm not going to wait till next year. Once the sun starts coming out in the spring, we're going to be able to appreciate that beautiful view of your lovely place there on the shores of Kirkland, so on Lake Washington.
You guys can all come over and we'll do a total show from here on the patio with some barbecue and a frosty one.
That's what I'm talking about. I'm looking forward to the day we can all meet up in person. That day will come. All right, certainly last but not least, we've got Steve Z.A. Smith in the bottom right corner. Steez, it's good to see you looking sharp as always, brother.
Always.
As you guys all are too. Obviously we were all heartbroken, but just being able to talk Seahawks with you guys lighten up my mood and lighten up my day. So.
All right. Okay. So, is Martin here? Are they saying Martin's in the? Can you guys let Martin in if he is actually standing by?
Trick or treat.
Because Martin had to break off for dinner. Maybe he's going to sneak in for a quick little appearance.
I think he's in the super chat or something. I don't see him in the.
Anyway, somebody said let him in. Let's keep an eye on him if he's not. Okay, so, if Martin is not here, I do want to do a little treat. He sent me something. We got to lighten the mood here, right? Because we're going to get in all the grim and the nastiness of what we saw last Saturday. But you got to cling to the good things in here. And I wish Martin was in the video right now so we could talk to him. But I'm going to play a little something he sent me a few days ago because Martin always disappears, right? And he always has to break off. He says, I got to go do piano, and then I've got to do a dinner. But he's going to be back. We're going to keep an eye because he might sneak on here. But while we're waiting for him to join, he sent me a video of, I said, send me some video of you playing piano. So he sent me one finally. And this was too good to not share with you guys. So I'm going to play a little clip of Martin tickling the ivories right here. Check it out. This is the talent that we have on this show right here. Just a sample of talent. Watch this. Man, you got
the Seahawks have going right there.
I was playing that for my girls, and they were like, "Oh, that is lit." You got to put him. He's got to put up, go put up a TikTok account, and put that up there. He would blow up. But Martin, you're not on TikTok, are you?
Nope, no TikTok.
Oh man, you would be TikTok gold.
Guy.
Man, congratulations, man. This is where all that practice, all that time away when he has to go, do his piano lessons. That's why. And he's only what? You're only 12, 13? 13.
I'm 13.
13.
Yep, 13.
Imagine how bad this guy's going to be when he's like in his late teens, 20s. He's going to be like,
and he dropped a video too. He put a video out there, which was awesome.
Yeah. So I didn't tell you I was going to play that. So there you go. Surprise, man. Surprise. I hope I didn't get your permission, but I figured you did it to me once. So I figured I can do it to you.
He's going to sue you, Norb.
It's all good.
No, that's good stuff. All right. Glad you could join us, Martin. I know you got to be here for very long. So while I'm in the mode of playing things, well, I figured the best way, normally I save the replay of our score predictions for kind of the time when we predict the next game. Well, clearly we don't have a next game. So I think the best way to start our conversation is to jump right in, since Martin is here, and replay the score predictions of the Rams wild card game right now. Let's let that sort of start the conversation, since we were so pumped. We were so optimistic about how we were going to win that game. By the way, Chef Jack Attack says, fire, fire, says Chef Jack Attack about that piano playing by Seahawks Martin. So we're going to do that right now. I'm going to play our game predictions of what was supposed to have happened on Saturday, and then we'll talk about why it didn't in just a second. So here are our score predictions from last week. Look how accurate we were. Check it out.
My score predictions, a 19-18 ball game. Russell Wilson getting the ball in the end zone to win the football game.
Seahawks are a 4-point favorite in this game. We're not doing betting odds, but I'm swallowing the points. 28-21 Seahawks win.
We easily cover the 4, and it's going to be 31-17. This game is over and over early.
At the end of the day, we come out on top 24-10.
The final score of the wild card game between the Seahawks and the Los Angeles Rams is 23-17. Okay. So
Hey, did I get quad X'd on that one?
you did, man,
I
because
got the quad.
I didn't. How did you see it? I didn't see anything. Nothing.
Oh,
Well, Norb does subliminal stuff, and I'm used to that, and it just like all of a sudden my brain said, "Did I just get quad?"
I would have
there we
gone
go.
along with you guys too.
Oh, sorry, I didn't have my feed going back to you. So, Brian, you need to see, but you can see right here. You can see the scores listed on what we predicted. Brian, you said 1918. Squabo, you had 28-21. Coach, the reason why I gave you the triple X rated rating, is wasn't just the fact that you had the highest score differential, at least the highest score points by Seattle, but you also said we were going to come out, we were going to win this game early, not even look back. So the swag and the confidence you had was highest of all of us. So I had to give you the triple X there.
Because I thought Teen Wolford was going to play the whole game. He didn't end up playing the whole game. So that was my bad.
We'll get into the reasons in a second. I'm just saying this is how we all made
right.
our promises. Steezy said 24-10, and I said 23-17. Obviously, we were all wrong. All right, so there you go. That's how off we were. So let's get that junk off the screen right now. All right, so... man, okay, so Roy Fisher in the Super Chat says, everyone in the round table, and what are your thoughts of us getting Anthony Lynn as OC? So we are going to talk about the OC thing in a second. I figure we got to talk about the game a little bit, and then we'll talk about all the stuff that's happened since then and what we got to do moving forward. So let's just, I guess, do our recap of the game itself. What went wrong? That's the title. What went wrong with the Hawks? So let's start here. Martin, let's start with you because you got to leave soon. So I want to give you as much opportunity to be able to talk. So why don't you start it off here? What happened? Why didn't any of our scores turn out the way it was supposed to? What went wrong?
First off, I'll leave, but I'll hopefully come back for the final hour or so. Second off, man, that was the worst game I've ever seen this season. Yes, even worse than like the other Rams game, the Bills game, and especially since it was playoff time, this was for everything. This was really important. Nothing matters about the regular season. It all came down to this, and we blew it. Offensive line, horrible. Russell Wilson held the ball too long. Play calling, also horrible. The only thing that kept us in the game, and I'll say it again, it was the defense. They actually kept us alive. They kept us for as long as possible, but when it came down to the wire, the defense just got way too gassed out. So, I mean, this was a horrible game, and it's probably gonna haunt us forever. Not forever, but like for a while.
Yeah, it's going to sting for a while. And obviously, there was a lot of the fact that they fired the offensive coordinator just yesterday. Clearly, there was some things not gelling. They didn't look like they were gelling, and clearly they felt like they weren't gelling, and that's why they made the change. Chef Jack Attack says, coaching went wrong. Coaching was the problem. Well, is that the case? Brian Abker, let's go to you, man. Let's get your take on the bird's eye view. What was the real problem with the game on Saturday?
Yeah, and it doesn't just come down to one problem. It comes down to multiple problems, as Martin mentioned. First of all, I agree with Seahawks Martin when he says that's the worst game he's seen. That was really the worst game of the season, even the loss to the Giants. What I couldn't see in this game that I usually see, like we're watching the game and you're on Twitter and you're on Instagram or whatever, and people are making comments, this is an ugly game, Seahawks back at it again, they're not going to win this game. But usually, myself, I'm sure Coach Marsh, heck, I'm sure all you guys can see what the Seahawks are trying to do and what they're trying to set up for the second half. And they go in the second half and they make adjustments. I could not, for the life of me, tell you what the Seahawks were trying to do offensively against that Rams team. I couldn't tell you. They didn't look like they had any type of direction. They didn't look like they had a very good game plan, if any kind of game plan at all. I mean, obviously they did. They're a professional football team, but whatever it was, it stunk. And then they didn't go make adjustments at halftime. Normally, I would expect an offensive coordinator to be able to make adjustments on the fly during the game after a series. But Shoddy's not that guy, never has been, probably never will be. So I've learned to not expect that and expect those adjustments to come at halftime. And they have throughout the season. They didn't do that in this game. So offensively, when you've got a quarterback like Russell Wilson who's mobile, but he's not a run threat on the read option or designed run plays specifically anymore, not saying he can't be, but he hasn't been this year, you're limited in what you can do on your offense. And when your offensive line struggles, the first time that they've actually all been together all season since like way back in week whatever it was, 3 or 4, they weren't gelling and they weren't doing a good job. Even when the big boy was out, they still couldn't stop that defensive line from penetrating, getting to Russ. And yes, he held the ball too long on certain occasions, but it was just a disaster offensively, and they just didn't have the killer instinct to go out there and win a playoff game.
I think what's so frustrating about this, too, is that it wasn't like some team that you don't know very well that you were going to go, oh, my gosh, they caught us off guard. Maybe the quarterback thing, like Bill, you'll probably talk about that, the fact that they were maybe planning on Wolford and then it became Goff, maybe that kind of threw a wrinkle, although I thought they were going to be prepared for both. But the fact that this team that we know so well, and really forget the quarterback, it was the offense against that defense. That defense, we know what that defense has done, is doing, will do, and always sets out to do against us. And that was the frustrating part, is the fact that they looked like they still didn't have any idea how to beat that thing. DJ Squabo, let's get your take on it.
Look, there were a lot of coaching errors that I saw in this game, but the players made a lot of mistakes too. Russell Wilson was not flawless in this game. Russell Wilson was far from it, and we'll talk about that in just a little bit. But I do think a lot of the problems get drawn back to the coaches in position to put our players, or who are supposed to put our players in position to be successful. And what I mean by that, I do agree, and we talked about it during the live stream. Coach Maraj was on there with myself and Norb, and I said, and you guys agreed, that if a coordinator, if one of the big three, Ken Norton, Shoddy, and Pete Carroll was going to go or had to go, that Brian Schottenheimer would be the one to go. And all season long, we've had question marks in certain aspects of our game. Early on in the season, our deep game was going extremely well, but then defenses started to adapt to that, and we couldn't establish a short passing game. At times, we couldn't establish a run game, and we have struggled all season with screen passes. And these are three things that are extremely essential, especially in the modern NFL, and especially when we've had an offensive line that's been suspect at times. And that's part of the reason why I think Mike Solari needs to be out as our offensive line coach, because even though he has a whole bunch of experience, even though he's supposed to be a fundamentalist, our offensive line has been struggling with fundamentals all season long. We see easy miscommunications across the offensive line in terms of pass blocking that just get missed, improper first steps off the ball. That's coaching. And even on fourth down in this last game, we saw Damian Lewis get blown up by Sebastian Joseph Day on the one to Carlos Hyde. And it's just, Damian Lewis is a run-blocking right guard. He's supposed to play physical. This is his style. The fact that he gets blown up on that, it's not the personnel for me. We have the personnel to be successful. Obviously, I would like to see us upgrade over the offseason, but it's the coaching, and it showed in that game. Brian's spot on. Seahawks Martin is spot on. We didn't adjust at halftime, and we came into it with a poor game plan. Our offensive coordinator and our head coach disagree about how our team needs to play football. And to be honest, right now, after what we saw towards the end of the season, I'm starting to agree with Pete Carroll. We'll talk about that in just a little bit. But this game showed a lot of weaknesses for Seattle, offensively and some defensively, but primarily offensively. And that's what we need to take out of it. A bunch of ways that we can improve. And I think schematically, there's going to need to be a lot of changes this offseason.
Yeah. So many changes, so many things that you brought up. Boy, that's like we said, when you win, you have things to talk about, but when you lose, you have a lot more things to talk about, and especially when it's the exit to the season. So we're going to get into that. Steezy, your take, man, of what you saw on Saturday.
Yeah, as Squabo mentioned, Brian was spot on. Seahawks Martin was spot on. Squabo was spot on. And just to kind of add on to that, on top of all that, turnovers. I mean, we've talked about it all year long. We win the turnover battle, we're undefeated. We lose the turnover battle, we're, 0-4, 0-5 now. And so, at the end of the day, the coaches aren't on the field. It's the players. DJ Reed, oh my gosh. I mean, I thought we had a chance, and then he fumbles on that punt return, and then that's pretty much game. Russell Wilson on a screen pass. There was over 700 screen passes attempted in the NFL this season. That was the only one that was intercepted. I hate to bring this up, but that interception reminded me of the Malcolm Butler interception. It was just, there was no way it could have happened unless the player kind of just knew about it beforehand. And I mean, we saw what happened before. DK was kind of on the sidelines throwing a fit, and after we were able to calm him down, the Rams had to have known that we were going to get him the football, and instead we forced him the football, and that happened. And I just feel like that was one of the plays that kind of shifted the momentum of the game. And so turnovers, obviously the offensive line gave up 5 sacks, couldn't get the running game going until the end. Defense, we weren't able to stop the run. We were a top 5 run defense all season long, and Cam Akers had over 100 scrimmage yards by halftime. And so it was a terrible effort all around. We had a turnover on special teams. it was just an outright abysmal performance from all three phases of the football team. Russell Wilson, he was awful. I mean, he completed 11 passes and he played all 4 quarters of the game. John Wolford didn't make it past the first quarter. He completed 3. So Russell Wilson only completed 8 more passes than their backup quarterback. I don't know. That's that for me. I mean.
It's hard to accept how ugly this game was on so many levels, and that's why you can't point it to one thing, because it's like you look at one thing, well, maybe it's the offense. Then you look at the defense, like, this, and then you're like, you brought up, anytime you have to compare a pass play to Super Bowl 49, I would say this is almost worse than that. I think this play was more flawed than that one, and that was one of the worst calls, I think, and at least at the time I felt. But we've seen Russell get pick six before, and we've seen this before. I think the Bears pick sixed him this way. I think, wasn't it the Saints or the Ravens? Ravens pick sixed him in the same way.
We're going to score.
But this was a different circumstance that led to this play, as I'm sure we'll talk about. But I saved Coach Marsh for last, because you had the benefit of having a breakdown of this game on our Coach's Corner last night, and which was awesome. And so you shined some light on some things that I hadn't noticed, leading the details that we don't always see on the broadcast. But why don't you reiterate for those who didn't see the Coach's Corner? Give me your take on this game, Coach.
Well, the thing is, when a season ends, you always look as a coach, you have to get away from it a little while. That's why it always stuns me that people get fired right away, even though I understand that they may have to go try to get someone else. Because I would end a season and be ready to get rid of somebody and wonder about players and everything else, and then a few days later go, okay, maybe it wasn't that bad or what have you. So when people are talking about getting rid of coordinators, and I sit there and break down the game and go, man, was it coordinator's fault or was it execution? And a lot of what I saw was lack of execution by the guys that we've been counting on for years. The new guy that came in, a couple of the new guys, but the guys that we've really counted on to make things happen, the plays that were being called, they just weren't being executed. And we talked about last night on a couple of those plays where guys were wide open. But the bottom line is that, because everybody else said plenty of stuff, that game was over for us with 11 minutes to go in the second quarter. Once that explosion took place on the sideline, that we were a different ball club. We changed the dynamics of everything. We changed how we called plays. It threw everybody for a loop. And as a coach, when you experience somebody on the sideline who just throws some sort of a tantrum like that, and all of a sudden, there's not 67,000 people that can calm that down either, that drown it out. Head coach has to deal with it. Coordinator has to deal with it. Russell has to deal with it. So instead of Russ sitting there with his iPad, Pete Carroll talking to the defensive coaches, offensive coordinator looking at his play sheet, trying to find his way into the zone, we're losing time in a situation where we just can't have that. And I'm not blaming DK, and I love Metcalf, and I want him here forever. He's going to be a superstar. But man, oh man, those little things like that cost us big time. And it just, from that point on, it felt like a 7-point lead was like chasing down a 21-point lead. For the whole rest of the game, it never felt like we were going to ever get that Russ magic, get the rhythm in the plays, because we were a broken team at that point. But at 12-4, division champions, we beat the teams that, in our division at least once and stuff. So I always want to be careful not to just jump on the let's dump everybody out bandwagon, because 8 weeks ago when I first came on the show, it wasn't Ken Norton that we were firing. So got to be careful there.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Now, I want to address several people. You guys are blowing up the chat, which is great. There's some super chats I want to get to. Chef Jack Attack again. He says, Russ can't cook if he does not have ingredients. We'll have to talk about that, because that's, again, that debate. Is it the coaching? Is it the talent? And we'll talk a little bit about where our shortcomings we feel there are. He reiterated that in another super chat. Says Russ needs a stovetop to cook. Needs the ingredients. He's our future chef, so he's got a lot of analogies when it comes to cooking. Since the whole let Russ cook thing was the early topic of conversation. And clearly that was not happening at the end. And then finally, Rory Fisher again with the super chat says we need to get the running backs that need block on your passing game, and we need to get a better playbook too, so plays won't read as well, so others won't see us easy. I think we're talking about predictability. And again, we've got a new offensive coordinator, so we're definitely going to be seeing some changes there.
And I've got thoughts on all those that I'm going to hold back on. It's very hard for me right now because I feel like I got commentary on all 5 of those, all those things that you just brought up.
So what I'm trying to decide here is, do we already turn the page and just go, this was a mess? There really isn't much point in breaking this game down because there was so much wrong with it. Should we just turn the page and now start talking about what we need to do move forward? Do you guys feel like that's what we should do?
I think we got a little more.
You got more
to get off our chest.
We got more to get off our chest. Okay,
because there was season-long stuff that was brought to the surface by not only what the Rams did and emotional stuff.
Let's do it. All right, we're not going to bury the hatchet yet. We need to chop more things here. Martin, I know you're going to have to go soon, so Martin, we'll go back around the horn to you. What were, I guess, some of the key things? I mean, you gave me the overview, but what was probably top things that were the glaring issues that revealed themselves on Saturday? Maybe the plays that made you the most frustrated watching this team.
Some of the plays that made me the most frustrated, definitely the pick six, but like everyone's gonna say that, right? So there's this one play. I get that Russell's pressured on this play, but he just missed DK by a mile on that deep ball. I get that he was getting pressured by a future Hall of Famer, Aaron Donald. I think that was the same play that Aaron Donald got injured. Yeah, I get that he was pressured and everything, but I mean, Metcalf was pretty much open. So, I mean, he missed by a mile. Then every single play after Aaron Donald got injured, every single offensive play, the dude's out. The Rams, yes, they have a good O-line without him, but when their best defensive lineman is not on the field, you got to take advantage of that. They couldn't take advantage of it, and so that just made me mad for the entire game.
Yeah, Brian, how about you? You're the first one to say you had more stuff to get off your chest. What stuff is that?
Well, let's see. So first of all, I just want to address some things that Coach said, which I loved, and I'd be curious to get his thoughts on what I saw on that screen pass. But the thing with DK, so we've seen it out of diva receivers like Terrell Owens and Keyshawn Johnson and at times Randy Moss, and it goes on and on and on. These receivers, they're always open no matter what. If they don't get the ball thrown to them, they're not interested in what's going on other than what they can bring to the game. That needs to be nipped in the bud immediately. I like a competitive guy, but he absolutely has to be told by Russell that he cannot do that again. He'll have to just let the game come to him sometimes, because, Coach, you're right. That's such a distraction that it really puts everybody off their game. The next thing that I want to address is the screen pass, because execution, in my opinion, was the problem on that play. It doesn't matter if they knew it was coming, because in 2013, everybody knew what we were doing. Everybody knew. Marshawn Lynch would come up to the line and say, "I'm coming your way, Holmes," and they couldn't stop him because execution was on point. So with the screen pass, you watch Freddie Swain, his first step was upfield. And it should no way, shape, or form have been upfield. It should have been to his left, getting to the sidelines to get that block. It's exactly like that play in the Super Bowl with the Malcolm Butler interception when Jermaine Kearse missed a key pick. And those are the type of little things. A little split-second miss can change the face of the game. And I felt like the game was changed for good on that pick six. It put more points on the board for them. It lost an opportunity for the Seahawks. And to me, that was by far the most frustrating play, because it could have been avoided. That play could have been a worst-case scenario, incomplete pass. Let's live to fight another day.
You mentioned the lack of execution on that play, the predictability of that play, the forcing it to DK, but could DK have also helped out on that? I think in the breakdown, it felt like, again, that to me, that was the exact duplicate of the 2003 we want the ball and we're going to score game to Alex Bannister, who did the exact same thing. He waited for the ball, probably split too wide, and the cornerbacks came up, picked it, same direction, same side of the field, everything. In fact, that was a wild card game. My gosh, that was a pick six game-ending wild card. I think it was overtime pick six to end the game. This game was also ended pretty much by that play. But I think DK has some fault to that as well. He didn't go as far as to say that, Brian, but did he not step up and at least make an effort to attack that ball instead of waiting for it and letting the guy come right in front of him?
Well, I think if you wanted to put some blame there, you could, but the whole premise of that play is to get the screen. I mean, Freddie Swain isn't a big-time dude on this team. He's still just trying to find his oats in the NFL. So for him to prove his worth, I know he's caught a couple touchdowns a little bit here and there, during the season. Hooray for that. But, dude, your job is to execute when the ball's not coming your way. And to get that pick was crucial to that play, and he knows it. He's not involved in the offense all that much. So you would think a guy like that would take every single advantage he can to be a superstar and make that execution happen.
So you blame Swain more on that play?
I do.
Okay,
I do, and that's why I was curious to hear coaches' thoughts, because I didn't get to see the coaches' corner.
Let's go around the horn. Coach,
I got thoughts, but I'll let other people. I want to hear what other people say first.
And we could kind of make this sort of, since we're on the topic of DK, we'll talk about that play specifically, who's to blame more on that, and then continue that topic. But let's go to Steezy. What did you see on that screen? Do you agree with Coach Marsh, or do you believe with Abker? Who do you think was the blame on that?
I haven't given everything that I think yet. So
okay, not yet. That's true. All right.
You believe Abker.
Okay. All right. So with Abker, where do you stand on this, Steez? How much fault falls on whose shoulders there?
Byron's definitely spot on, but I think DK definitely deserves some of the blame, just because if he never threw that tantrum in the first place, maybe they wouldn't have forced the ball via a screen, but I also agree with Byron in the fact that DK was expecting Freddie Swain to make that block, to make the screen, to make it work. And so, Freddie, he didn't do his job, and DK was expecting him to do his job, and he didn't. And so that's kind of why DK, I feel like, didn't attack the ball like he should have. But I don't know. I agree with Brian, but I also agree that DK is partially to blame. Just because if he never threw that tantrum, I don't think they would have forced the ball to him.
Squabo, what do you think?
Steezy, my brother, you took the words out of my mouth. I agree DK is to blame because of the fact that he threw the tantrum in the first place, and that this is the reason that the call came to be. I also believe it's on the coaching staff for putting them in that position. I also don't know if that's exactly how their splits were supposed to be. Remember, Darius Williams after the game says he knew exactly what the play was prior to the snap. So he was on top of it. That obviously helped. Brian, I completely agree with you as well, though. When you talk about how Freddie Swain's missed first initial step help make that block not come to be the way that it was supposed to be. And that's part of the reason why I'm okay with this Brian Schottenheimer release, essentially, because I've seen too many times this year where simple mistakes have happened at the snap of the football that have set us behind the 8 ball. We're behind the 8 ball all season long in terms of our down and distance, and that's why all season long we've struggled on third down. We're behind the 8 ball when it comes to blocking at times, and that's why we're giving up sacks in the backfield, and that's why we're missing blocks, and that turned into a pick 6 right here. Freddie Swain takes a wrong first step. It mistimes everything. DK just watches the play happen in front of him, and he hustles down there to try and go make a stop, but there's not enough field, and Darius Williams already knew what the play was going to be. His eyes lit up, and he smelled blood in the water, and he went out and made a play. So you got to give him credit for that, but I put blame on DK Metcalf. I completely agree with Steez that had he not thrown this temper tantrum, it doesn't happen. But it also falls upon the coaching staff for falling for it and calling an obvious play. First of all, I don't like this play call in general. I don't like that type of screen in general. There was one blocker out there for 2 defenders, first of all. Second of all, it's one of those things where we just dish it out to him and let him make a play one-on-one. That's okay in certain circumstances, but not immediately after he throws a temper tantrum and they're expecting him to get the ball. I don't like the play call in general. I want to see more creative stuff. If we're going to run a jailbreak type screen, that's different. Get some offensive linemen out there and have him come more inside towards the football so it's less likely to be a play like it turned out to be. But a whole lot of things could have been done to fix this. I think part of it is the fact that we struggle with our first steps off the ball, and we struggle with screen passes. So 2 bad things that we do combined with poor timing, and the defense already knew the play, ended in total disaster. So it's a lot of things that went wrong with it, and a lot of people deserve blame.
All right, and obviously we're talking about this play ad nauseum because this was the play of the game. I mean, this play doesn't happen. Who knows? It's possible maybe we find our stride, but unfortunately it was the byproduct of what you talked about, the DK Metcalf tantrum, and then it just sort of snowballed from there. But now, Coach Marsh, that was cool with that glass in front of your face. It made you like transparent.
Yeah,
invisibility.
I've been trying to see if anybody would catch it. My new
invisibility,
my new
cloaking
enhancement to the program.
It's a cloaking device, man. That's awesome.
That is awesome.
It's like you're drinking that Star Wars
stealth
blue
mode.
milk.
I'm taking this show serious.
All right, so you're going to get the last word, at least on this play. What was your take? You broke it down quite a bit. Where do you stand on this pivotal play where they got the pick six.
This is the play of the year, or the anti-play of the year, obviously, in my opinion. But I have to start off by saying these couple of things. First off, I don't want anybody in the round table to have their feelings hurt with what I'm about to say, because you're all wrong. And I mean that in a kind way. And I'm going to preface it with this. My first couple of years as a coach, nearly 3 decades ago, I coached to make my assistants happy. I coached to make my players happy all the time. I was trying to please everybody. And then at some point, about my 3rd or 4th year, I realized it's my name that goes in the paper. It's my record that takes place. It's a lot of those things. Now, not my from a standpoint of just me, but I was responsible for an entire organization. So I had to stop trying to coach to make assistants happy, to make players happy. I had to work with them, but not in the course of a game. In the game, we couldn't deviate from a game plan, because if we did, we were going to be in a world of hurt. So here's the situation that takes place. And actually there was in a trips formation, they did have an extra guy out there, squad, but I don't mean to counter what you had said there, but they had 2 guys that were going to do a crisscross block so that they could run a bubble screen through the alley. The problem is Russ tips it off the moment he receives the snap. And as soon as the play happened, the moment the snap goes, you can see the DB breaking on the ball. He's breaking at DK. So a couple of things happen. Number one, Russ gets the ball and his footwork is such that he immediately starts sliding to his right, even though there should be a little bit of a play fake there to allow the defense to come up. That bubble screen needs timing. Now, DK has fault too, because he didn't take a single step driving forward where his shoulders were square. As soon as he finished his motion, he immediately turned and faced right back towards Russ. So a guy at a corner who's looking in a zone coverage at quarterback and receiver at the same time sees quarterback immediately get the snap and start moving lateral. At the same time, the receiver's already going back and isn't going inward. All he had to do is break on that. So our receiver, and I just talk about receivers, not by names, receiver's going to have a problem getting that block when the DB is already near the line of scrimmage by the time he gets there. If DK takes just one step towards the football, and ideally if he circles up and saves the ball flight, he's just going to curve around, and now he's going to be able to get at least 10 to 15 yards, and he's going to go through there. But it's not just Russell's fault. It's our coordinator and coach's fault, because they allowed a situation to take place where Russ didn't throw a play earlier to wide open guys on a flood route, 3 guys on one side. He throws it to Metcalf, who just gets demolished, and Metcalf actually set up blocking on that play before he got demolished. He was nowhere to be in that route. So he gets drilled. He gets upset. Now we throw a pass that, as Squabble said, I think it was Squabble, never been intercepted all year long, that type of a play. And we throw the play that gets intercepted because we're placating to a player. Quarterback's out of rhythm, doesn't do it correctly, because we've said all year long we are awful at screens. We're the worst screen team I've ever seen at the NFL level this year. So I have to take it to Russ and how he's played, and to our coordinator and head coach who allow that to happen. And Squabble said, and others have said, you can't allow that. And Norb, I'm going to ask you and Brian, because you've been around for a while. I was thinking over the last few minutes while guys were talking, the last Seattle player I can remember that had the type of treatment that Russ had is Edgar Martinez. He was kind of the untouchable, where you just never said anything bad about him. And I feel like in this town, it's like if you say something bad about Russ, like you're going to be in trouble. Like, don't say Russ played, don't say he's bad. Don't say, at $30+ million a year, when we want linemen, we need everything else. And granted, I would take that type of money too. We would all take as much as we can make, but that's at the expense of something else. Well, if that guy doesn't show up, he doesn't make plays, I'm not afraid to say he's got to own up to that, like Jamal did when he didn't make that deep play against Cut. He said a few things, and at the end of his line, he said, you know what, bottom line is I have to make that play. Russ is the type of guy I want to, for once, just hear, man, stop the cliches, still do all your worldly stuff, brand yourself. You can do all that stuff. That's great. But you got to take ownership of some things and start focusing back to where you were and what got you here. Otherwise, you and DK are going to be short riddance. And guys like Lockett and Holliston, those guys get lost in the shuffle because they played their butts off. So that's a little bit. I blame Russ, coordinator, but let's go ahead and holding people accountable. It's not just Metcalf on that one.
It's so weird when go ahead, Brian.
No, I just want to ask Coach a question, because I agree. And if Russ did not make the move that he needs to make, DK didn't make it, I certainly blame coaches, because you should never placate to a player during a game like that. I'm a deep subscriber of that. But you didn't mention Freddie Swain, and the dude did not do his job. If you watch his first step up the line of scrimmage, it's upfield, and coach, it's not supposed to be.
You're 100% correct. And for those who don't know, I know Brian gets introduced, Abner gets introduced for what he currently does, but he's got a lot of coaching history and a lot of background that's exceptional. So when he's saying stuff, it's coming from also a coaching background as well. Agree that he took the wrong step, but the execution from the other two forced him to be in a position where even if the timing was such that he darn near gets a block in the back because that DB is able to break on the ball. When you practice that, you still practice it so that your receivers are going at somewhat of a 30 to 45 degree angle to make the block. He had to go at about a 15 degree angle. So yes, his upward step was incorrect, but that's different than your left tackle taking an incorrect 6-inch power step and a defensive lineman goes by for a sack. His step was good enough for the normal progression of the blocking scheme in that play. It was at the C- range, but it wasn't an F range compared to what the other 4 people involved: Carroll, Schottenheimer, Wilson, Metcalf.
Got it.
Swain to me is in there, but he's the 5th cog of what. Yeah, it needs to be corrected, but you never practice going lateral down the line of scrimmage for that.
No,
play. So
I just felt that had he made the right original step, even though it was sniffed out of the gate, he could have at least prevented the pick 6.
No doubt about it.
Tackle for loss, but preventing the pick 6 to me could have changed the complex of the game.
No doubt about it.
That's the only reason I felt like it's singled out. But the way you've explained it in his hierarchy in the blame game, I would agree with that.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And I'm coming from the standpoint of I had the luxury of spending hours watching the game film and do those things for our coach's corner and then for tonight also. But there were so many plays between that play and just halftime. Those were the only plays I talked about in coach's corner. From that moment till halftime, there was easily 5 plays that Russ forced it to someone when there were people so wide open. I mean, unbelievably wide open. And yet the mindset was just not there. We were forcing it. And that's why I said, early on, I was live with Squabo and his buddy when we were doing the show, and we could sense it coming out of the second half.
Yeah.
Because we don't make a lot of great adjustments. So,
and this is the last thing I'll say, and I want other people to talk because I don't want to take the whole thing, but you brought up, why don't we get on Russ and kind of compared him to Edgar? And I agree. There are some athletes, Edgar, Felix Hernandez, who this city just doesn't want to pound on, and it's for a reason. It's because they've either saved us from something or been the beacon in the darkness of this team. Yeah. And with Russ, it's like we've been riding his game-winning drives now for so long, and he's been such a huge part of the franchise and getting the 2 Super Bowls, even though we had the Legion of Boom. And I think that's why. Now, the $35 million a year that he makes, I don't even take that into consideration because there's 3 or 4 worse quarterbacks that are making right at that level
Roethlisberger's going to get 40. Right. He's slated to get 40.
So we didn't. He takes up 15% of the salary cap. I get that. That's a significant amount, but it didn't preclude us from going to get anybody that we wanted to get this year. We added Jamal Adams. We added Dunbar. We were able to get those pieces. So until somebody tells me we couldn't get this guy because Russ takes too much money, I'm not worried about that. But I do want to see, like you said, him take a little bit of responsibility on the podium, which it seems like he does, but he almost stops just short of it.
Well, Squabo, Stevie, let me ask you guys, based on what we're talking about now, talk about Metcalf. You got a guy like Russ who he's earned the right to maybe have that little luxury. Edgar absolutely earned the right, and you guys are too young to remember Edgar probably and all those great things. But guys who have earned the right, they paid their dues, taken us through the dark times. Now Russ has a no trade clause in his contract, but again, we're going to put those aside. At what point does Metcalf either need to learn? He needs to learn now, but how far along before he could have done what he did yesterday and be okay with it? Like a T.O. Owens did that all the time. Other guys have exploded. Richard Sherman exploded. Lots of our guys. Baldwin used to explode all the time. So for you guys who've kind of come into the game with DK, how far along till he could have done something like that and got away with it?
Let me add to that too. Just I want you guys to answer that question. But as I've been thinking about this whole past year and into the previous season, remember we talked about this at one point on the show, and I said there was all this talk about how Russell and DK went to Mexico and how all this time together to bond and practice throws. Remember, and they even at one point in the game they said, "Hey, let's just do it like in Mexico." And I remember thinking, you know what? I noticed he's not throwing to Tyler Lockett in Mexico. He's not throwing to David Moore in Mexico. Why is DK and him having this special Mexico thing? And then, I think we kind of poo-pooed it. It's like, oh, yeah, everyone's doing great. But then to have it ironically end on the season where that's the biggest thing that we see Russell almost forcing the issue and the whole team trying to force him, kind of makes you wonder, how did this whole season start from the offseason leading, and did they do more than just placate him in that game? Was this just sort of this favorable thing from the beginning. Filter that into it as you guys answer that question.
Didn't
that Coach
they put
brought
out
up.
some of Russ was putting out stuff at the beginning of the year that we're aiming to be the best duo of all time, even though he had other.
Yeah, so Montana and Rice comparisons.
Montana and Rice. Yeah.
So there's expectations early on. So throw that into the fact how this all played out. But Steez, why don't you go, man?
Sorry, Coach, if you could clarify the question one more time, or if you could bring it up one more time.
Down
Just it's the idea of DK. He did what he did, and he's in his second year, right?
Yeah.
And he's a guy who dropped the football against Dallas by kind of getting lazy at the last part of the end zone. He had a football that we taught circling up. He tried to catch it with his helmet on Monday Night Football. So he's done some things throughout the season. Now he does that explosion. How far for you does he have to be, or what does he have to prove to where he could throw a Terrell Owens type of tantrum, a Baldwin type of tantrum, Richard Sherman type of tantrum, and be okay with it? And guys have been like, hey, it's just who he is.
Once we win a Super Bowl.
Like, where do we have to be?
Once we win a Super Bowl, then I feel like he could. Once we win a Super Bowl, then I feel like, okay, that's who he is. That's what he does. But until then, I mean, I don't want to see any more of that. I mean, I understand he's about Squabble and our age. I mean, he's 22, 23. But I don't know. Having a Diva receiver, it comes with its, there are its benefits, but I don't know the consequences. I mean, I don't know. But yeah, I think we're gonna have to win a Super Bowl before I feel like it's okay. But even when we do win a Super Bowl and he still acts like that, I mean, there are gonna be times where we're like, oh no. But I feel like, to answer your question, we'd have to win a Super Bowl before I'd be somewhat okay.
Squabble?
Squabble, as you psychoanalyze it, because I know you love to really psychoanalyze this stuff. How do you make sure that a guy like that doesn't get squashed though, right? Because he is a temperamental mentality, energetic type of guy. So kind of speak to both sides. Like, what do you have to do to earn your trust with that type of action? But how do you also, from your standpoint, your age, relative age, not let him go in the dauber like, well, I have to be a strict, can't have my attitude energy show.
Well, he's got to practice what he preaches. The problem that I'm seeing, one of the main problems that I'm seeing with DK is he's complaining about a lot of different things, and he's finding a lot of problems with a lot of different people and a lot of different situations, when in reality, we go back to the coach's quarter every Monday or Tuesday, and we find out that DK's making a lot of bad plays himself. He's missing blocks. He's getting penalties. He's not coming towards the football on that screen pass, and it leads to a pick six, and he's doing things here and there that are not for the betterment of the team and are not the best thing for the team. So when he's complaining and throwing a tantrum, it's one of those things like, how are you going to judge other people for how they're messing up throughout a game if you're messing up too? How are you going to get on them for making mistakes if you're making mistakes too? I need to see DK clean up his game. I also need to see him have more respect for Russell Wilson. And I need to see Russell Wilson command and demand that respect. How quick has DK been so many times this year, early on in games, to call out Russell Wilson, to wave his hand in the air, put his hands up, palms to the ceiling. Where's the ball? What's going on? I'm wide open. Go to the sideline, throw his helmet, complaining visually. There are cameras everywhere. Everything that you're doing is getting seen. Why are you calling out throwing your quarterback under the bus? Russell Wilson is a people pleaser, whether we like it or not. He's not the guy that goes up to people and tells them no. Sometimes he needs an organization to do that. And now not only is it taken away Coach Marsh, like he said, from time that Pete Carroll and Russell Wilson could be on the tablets trying to figure out the defense on the sidelines, but also Russell Wilson struggles at times. And it's another place that I need to see improvement from Russell Wilson. I want to see Russell Wilson be like, shut up. Let's run our offense. Let's run our game plan. Like, grab him and put him in his place, because he feels like that superstar, the 3% body fat that comes into the NFL, sets a playoff record for most receiving yards, sets a franchise record in his second year. I don't want to see what he's like after we win a Super Bowl with him, because if he's a diva now, what do you think he's going to be like then? I don't think a Super Bowl makes it so that he can get away with this attitude. I think it's his performance on the field because cameras are always on him, and he likes to throw a scene when he thinks he's on the camera, but he forgets that we can see the other things he does on camera too. So I think he needs to clean his performance up and focus on himself, because he is not a flawed flawless player. And once he becomes a flawless player, that's when it's okay for him to start doing these things. So once he at least, obviously he's never going to be perfect. So once he is at least making plays consistently throughout the game and not having these mental gaffes consistently throughout the game, and early on in ball games, not throwing his quarterback under the bus, part of Russell Wilson's depression that I proclaimed early on in the season, partially because of DK, because DK has all these high expectations and he's calling for the ball and putting Russell Wilson underneath the bus. So I say DK Metcalf, I don't want to see this type of attitude from him until he's making a whole bunch of plays and until he's consistently not having these mental gaps that are costing us drives and costing us series.
And that's the great point you made there, man. This is why I would love to I would have taken Squabble on any team I coached, and he'd have been a captain flat out without even a hesitation. Because it won't always be your quarterback. And like you said, Russ is not the guy. Russell always placates to everybody. And again, that's his personality. We've loved him for it. He's positive, he's energetic, enthusiasm, limitless mindsets, all those type of things. But you got to have somebody on that offensive side of the ball in the huddle who's a leader from the standpoint of, no, this is not how we do it here. Someone in between the lines, between the hash marks, who says, this is not how we do it here. You can't do that to Russ. You can't do whatever, because it happened early on, as you said, early on in the season. And that's why it was allowed to happen now, because no one squashed it back then. Russ didn't squash it back then. In the game against Arizona where he got in the fight, Russ tried to help him. A lineman tried to help him. Metcalf threw their hands off. So when you're going palms up and you're inconsistent, that was the difference between Richard Sherman and Baldwin and what he's doing now. Sherman and Baldwin were consistent. They did the stuff. So when something went wrong, they'd already earned the trust of the team. They knew they were going to show up in the fourth quarter, third quarter, second quarter. They're always going to be there. So the issues of, guys seeing themselves and the Diva stuff and all that, the guy has a chance to be one of the greatest ever. And I think he's hearing that so much that he feels like you should just be showcasing me right away in the first quarter. We got a guy who had 100 catches, who to me is head and shoulders the better receiver. Head and shoulders has better trade value. And I don't ever want to trade the guy, but I'm saying just in terms of stock value on the team, man, that is going back to why we lost this game, in my opinion. One player caused the whole dynamic to shift.
And here's the concern. Building on that, if you want to look a few years back, you say, well, who's going to be the one to do it? You already said Russell Wilson's not the guy. He doesn't really get in people's grills and call people out like that. But who's going to do it? Because we've seen the history with this team. Pete Carroll is a player's coach. He likes to get in there, like to be the buddy. The part of what they like to sell in this team is they will let players be who they want to be. They can be their own identity. Problem is that if you let it go too far, DK is being his own identity and no one's keeping him in check. But who's going to do it? When things start to get bad. And how things got bad. Remember when we started having the blowups when Richard Sherman started blowing up and he started calling out the offense because they were, not when they were passing the ball at the 1 yard line. Richard Sherman was calling out the offense and no one was checking him. I mean, I think that led to tension on the sideline. And then we had other, Michael Bennett. I mean, those big personalities. We haven't had exactly a good history of managing them when they started to get out of control. They were kind of in control in the first few years. It was just, no, you can't do. Don't ever talk about me. That was more like him against the media. But once it was internal, it became an issue and eventually sort of led to the breakup of the team that we knew that defense to be. So, Abker, what you were going to say something there? Well,
what led to the breakup was those guys stopped buying into Pete Carroll's message and they made it known throughout the locker room. And you can't have dudes spreading bad words in the locker room or not abiding by what the culture is the coach is trying to set. You just can't have those type of players on your team, even if they're fantastic athletes. That's what led to that demise. Now, as far as who's going to set younger guys straight on this team, since that's not in Russell's personality, he's not a Tom Brady. He doesn't get in guys' face on the sideline. He's not an Aaron Rodgers. Doesn't approach guys like that. And quite frankly, I can't think of anybody on the offense that would do it. There's nothing wrong with having your defensive leader be that guy, your Bobby Wagner or somebody along those lines. Now, they might need to establish some new leadership on that team. That might be the part of what's the problem. Like, who are the deep team leaders that instruct younger guys on how to act, what to do, get them motivated, that type of thing. That might be something that this team has missed that we really didn't pinpoint up until this point in time in our roundtable conversations, because you're right. Somebody needed to get in Metcalf's face and tell him that, this isn't how we do things and this is a distraction and you're only hurting your team right now, but nobody did.
And you got us 90% there, and I'm so glad you went first because I'm going to get us over the threshold. it's going to be the first time I can remember since a guy by the name of Ray Lewis took control of an entire team because he wanted to win the Super Bowl so bad that he kind of dictated culture, and he had a coach that let him do that, and guys respected him. As soon as Jamal Adams has a full off season, I think he is the guy that, again, this rare situation where usually you want your offensive guy where you don't have it there. I thought you were going to say Adams, then I'd have shut up. But you said Bobby Wagner, so I'm like, okay, I know it's going to be Bob, but you went right down the perfect trail. But I think Adams probably thinks, gosh, I'm just learning the defense. They're just letting me start to get noticed. Norb was calling it earlier, when he started seeing Adams doing some stuff pregame. You can't just come into a team and then take over the whole thing because you can get ostracized that way. Yep. But I think now with a full off season, the fact that he's earned the credit, earned the respect, it's why Adams can make mistakes. And if he went off right now, I'd be okay with it because he's proven to be there. He's a proven winner. He's done all those different things. And I guess my last piece is what bothers me is I don't think I've ever seen an athlete who's had the great story that Metcalf has had of coming back. I mean, like, no pun intended. Major injury, gets drafted. He's balling when he gets drafted. And then a city falls in love with him. He's got all this other stuff. Usually there's a confident humility that takes place there. That borders on cockiness, which I love. Like, I love the brashness. I have no problem with it. But you get this humility side that's like, I remember what got me here. Man, don't forget who got you here because, we'll be a very loyal fan base to you until you cause us to lose playoff games. And then we will turn in a heartbeat. We'll be like every other city out there.
Yeah, and maybe the new offensive coordinator, who we have yet to know who's going to be, perhaps there could be a personality in there that maybe that's the guy who could maybe take a hand in taking control of that offense. It's interesting as we look back and see how the pieces have fallen. Isn't it interesting how Schottenheimer was on the field and eventually he went up to the booth, wasn't on the sideline? I think we all were like, oh, it's just he's maybe got a better view, the advantage to call the plays. But if everybody thought that way, he would have been, every offensive coordinator would be up in the booth. You start to wonder why that was. Was there a reason that maybe they did that? Because maybe that was a sign of things to come. The fact that Schottenheimer was down not on the sideline, but up in the booth. But that'll be a discussion for when we get into the coordinator.
Our offense started to struggle when that change took place.
That's a good point. I don't think anybody has talked about that till now. But okay, so I know we're going to talk about the coordinator thing in a second. But is there any other stones left unturned about the Rams game that we want to bring up? While we're thinking about that, I got a pile of super chats that I haven't addressed yet. Chef Jack Attack says, we don't do trick plays. Let's do something different. That's something that will come into the conversation when we start talking about the new offensive coordinator. What else? We got Kobe Jones in the super chat. Thank you for your support. Paul Third says Metcalf has the highest trade value. Just saying. Chef Jack Attack says, Coach, you're the man. Let's see, a whole bunch went through and we were debating highly. Nikolai Gardner says, Coach is a man. We want you as the OC.
And then as soon as I score 8, 10, 15 points in a game, then I'm the guy getting fired the next day, and you guys are calling for my head. So I enjoy the round table much better. It's a lot less stress.
Yeah, but that OC job pays a touch better than we do, Coach.
Hey, that's true. They say once you start paying attention to the fans, you quickly become a fan. So I just be careful on that one. But yeah, no doubt about it.
Drive Swizz also
I do have to say before you turn the page, I mean, it wasn't just offense, right? Defense gave up some stuff. Our punter didn't have his greatest game, so it was a 3-phase thing. When I said going into this, we were better at all 3 phases, and I still believe that as a team. On paper, we look better in all 3 phases. But man, we just sometimes things happen. That's why you play it. They say the X's and O's are way better than the Johnnies and the Joes because every play on offense, every play on defense, when you draw it up, looks fantastic, and then you got to insert people into that, and that takes place. Stuff takes place.
Yep.
Drive Swizz says, I can't wait for the prediction music video. Drive's already thinking about 2021. At this point, that video doesn't come out till like late August, so we got some time to figure some things out before then. But I am curious if you think this was at all an issue. But, I think we all expected it was going to be Johnny Wolford, being at quarterback, and he got knocked out early. Do you think that had any impact on the game that Goff ended up playing, or do you think it would have been the same result if it was Wolford? I argue that I don't think it would have made a difference because our problems primarily were on the offensive side of the ball, not the defense. And they would have still run the ball, handed it to Cam Akers, and Cam Akers could have taken a handoff for me for that matter. And he still would have, ran for 150 yards or whatever. So just curious if you felt like that had any issue whatsoever. in the quarterback situation? Anyone feel like it did?
No, I feel like I could have played quarterback that game for the Rams, and Seattle still could have lost that game because Seattle couldn't have stopped the run. And that was the big thing, that Cam Akers just broke the rookie record for most rushing yards by a rookie in a playoff game ever. And he did so against our top tier rush defense. So I think it was about our rush defense in this game. They struggled on third downs. They struggled to pass the football at times. They struggled to do things. I definitely think that Wolford, it obviously is more mobile than Jared Goff, and obviously that was a part of the game plan, but I think we lose that game regardless of the quarterback, because the problem that we were facing was we couldn't shut down the number one thing that they wanted to do, and that's run the football. But real quick, if I could touch back on what you guys were saying about the leadership thing on the offensive side of the football, because obviously Russell Wilson is not the guy that's going to go up to a DK Metcalf, and I think it's important to point out that, and you guys will understand this as alpha males as you guys are on the show, and for all you guys watching, there's something about alphas and being on the football field. Even though Cam Chancellor wasn't the most spoken leader at times when he was in Seattle, he was vocal at times, but there were times when he was quiet. And the only thing that you would hear, and the way that you would hear from him, was his pads got to popping. And that's how you would know that he was in the building. Same with Beast Mode. I'm just about that action, boss. He just wants to hit somebody. And that's the thing, is we need somebody to go up to DK, because DK's the 3% body fat, the walks in with the shirt off to the interview with Coach Carroll, the confidence above the roof, the millionaire, hanging out with supermodels, all this stuff, right? DK Metcalf has the world in his hands. The only person that's going to be able to command his respect and demand that he listen to them is somebody that he feels physically intimidated by, or at least he respects in terms of their physicality. So defensively, I agree that Jamal Adams might have the opportunity to do so, and they have lockers that are near each other in the locker room. So I agree with that. But offensively, I think he needs to be Dwayne Brown. I need a big physical left tackle who's constantly in the trenches and constantly getting physical, and he's bigger than DK Metcalf. So I need someone that can physically dominate DK Metcalf to be the one to go up to him and put him in his place, because DK, honestly, if Tyler Lockett were to try and tell him to do something like that, he'd be like, Tyler, what you doing, man? Like, you got more catches, but I'm pressing you, bro. Like, and same with Russell Wilson. Like, he thinks he's pressing Russell Wilson. He thinks he's better than Russell Wilson. He thinks he's more important than Russell Wilson because it's in his head. So he needs somebody like a Cam Chancellor, like a beast mode, that delivers the hit, that the proof is in the pudding, and Dwayne Brown needs to play better so that he can go up to a guy like DK and tell him to play better too. So I say offensively, if it's going to be someone, it's Dwayne Brown.
Hey, Squabble, what do you think as a player? Like, if I'm a coach, I'm going to do exactly what you said. But what if I also brought a guy like Cam Chancellor back to talk to you? Like, it's not just from the physical standpoint, but a guy who's so respected, and he was respected as a physical player, to kind of triangulate him, right? It's not just going to take one person, but you have a guy in the house. And I'm saying that, like, if I was your coach and you're the player and I put a physical guy to you, but I also brought some alum from the college back, or someone said, hey, I need you also as a respected winner who's won a Super Bowl to go deal with this guy. And let him know that we're going to do that. What do you think? Good or bad? Good or bad choice?
That is absolutely brilliant. That's one of the best things that you can do. I remember back when I played high school, and when I was growing up in my freshman and sophomore years, seeing these big seniors that were so intimidating, so scary, I'm like, yeah, y'all ain't so tough no more. But I still respected them because I remember how I felt about them when I first saw them. And this is to a little bit apples and oranges, but my coach's brother was Danny Shelton, and Danny Shelton came down. And for those of you who don't know, he played for Cleveland, played for New England, played for Detroit. And Danny Shelton comes down, and he's telling us, and instantly garners all of our respect. And all of us are just completely silent listening to Danny Shelton about his trials and tribulations, because we know him as such a physical player, and we see his tree trunk legs. So when you have that intimidation factor in an intimidation sport, not a contact sport, a collision sport, that is 100% huge. I think beast mode. I think Cam Chancellor should come back and talk to him. And I agree. That's a brilliant idea. It doesn't matter when they played, especially if they grew up being idolized by DK Metcalf. That could have an even larger impact.
I got a thought. Hold on. I got a thought on that.
Out there.
I got a thought on that. But real quick, I got somebody who's coming in and wants to defend himself. It's DK Metcalf himself.
I'm DK Metcalf from the Seattle Seahawks, and you're watching NorbCam.
All right, so
so you can't say anything negative about him, man. You got to be Mr. Positive.
No,
look.
I was going to say that because Squabo's right on about those type of leaders that can come back into your football life. And I promise you, if Paul Allen were still alive, that this situation may not be to the level that it is with DK, because he was the type of guy that could say, hey, DK, I love you, man. I want to pay you a lot of money. And I've got a lot of money, but it ain't going to happen if you keep up at this pace. Let's all get on the same page. Just a simple, smooth, easy conversation from a beloved guy like that can make all the difference in the world.
Yeah, Squab and Steezy, listen to the three guys from the prehistoric era, that prehistoric HAWK era. You always pay attention to the guy who puts his name at the bottom of the check, so to speak. So
here's I want to address what you just said, is that I would love for it to be Dwayne Brown, because I think you're right. He's probably the biggest, most physically intimidating guy in the offense, but I don't think he's the guy. He doesn't seem to be the guy. I've never seen him be in that role. Not that I'm in the locker room or anything, but if he hasn't already, he's been on the team for how many years now? And I've yet to see him be the guy to sort of be that rally the troops, getting people's grill. So I'd love it to be him. I don't think it is. The idea about bringing a Cam Chancellor back to do a motivational one-on-one, I like the idea, but I feel like one session ain't enough. I think this guy, because I feel like, you get one talk, hey, that sounds great. And then you go back to what you're doing. And it's so easy to slide back into your habits. I mean, I think about my kids, right? I don't know how many times we have these talks, these come to Jesus, kids, you've got to do this. You got to be real responsible. When you're on the court, you got to be this. You got to have this, no attitude. And we will do it till we're blue in the face. And it's like we have to keep doing it over and over and over again. And maybe it's the fact that we're their parents, why they stopped listening to us after a certain point. But I do feel like it's got to be someone who's going to be there every single day. Like Coach Marsh, you were there coaching your kids up every single day, being in their grill. And I feel like it's got to be that every single day. At practice, in the games. One time is just not enough. 2 times isn't enough. Maybe you get that one really strong person who he just super respects, and they get that one moment where maybe he has a moment of clarity and goes, oh man, I got to change. And maybe you'd like to dream that, like in a movie, it happens in movies, right? They have the guy and he's struggling, and then, Obi-Wan comes up to Luke, use the Force. And all of a sudden, or Yoda, you must believe in yourself. And then all of a sudden, everything changes, right? But come on, this is the real world. And most of the time, one time doesn't just turn a person's personality and turn their habits into everything solved, because it's like a daily grind. I'm not trying to be Mr. Wet Blanket on the whole thing. I have an example, though. But that's my somewhat skeptical aspect of what you guys are talking about there.
Well, let me run this by the crew, too, because I think I could see this happening. There's 2 guys out there who constantly now talk about some of the regrets that they had early on in their career, but they didn't have anybody before them to call them and say, hey, if you do this, this could happen. Those guys are Terrell Owens and Randy Moss. 2 guys who were brash early on, immature early on, didn't really mature as their careers went on until the latter half of their careers. But if one of those 2 guys was to call him, because they're big fans of his, maybe, and I don't know if they're fans of his or not, but if a guy like that, those 2 guys were to call him and say, hey, take it from some guys that we would still be who we are, but the fact that they ended up doing what they did, and then now later they're getting on saying, wow, gosh, if I hadn't done this, and look at Terrell Owens. I mean, he missed the Hall of Fame 3 times. Didn't even show up the 3rd time to find out if he was going to make it until then he finally ended up, getting his due. So I could see maybe those 2 being the Jedi masters that could call him and get him to wake up a little bit because of the magnitude of what they are. And they were exactly like him. But those 2, again, didn't have a anybody.
Terrell Owens would be a great one. Just the fact also, because if he wants to be in the Hall of Fame someday and he sees what happened to Terrell Owens and the fact that with such talent and such a great career, and he never got in because of his attitude, I mean, I would think that he wouldn't even have to talk to him. He would just have to look at his story. And I don't know if he knows his story, but man, that's a walking case of this is what you could become. Go ahead, Brian.
Oh, sorry, Norb, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I think I'm on delay because it looked like you stopped. I apologize.
No problem.
Okay, I was just going to say it's a shame that Marshawn Lynch isn't a little bit deeper connected to the franchise, because he is the kind of guy that really loves to motivate young guys and tell them how it is. I mean, he really prides himself on dropping that knowledge, and he's also the kind of guy that would say, here's how you need to do it, DK. don't make me come back and talk to you again, because if I do, it's going to be a different conversation. That's the kind of guy he is.
And it wouldn't be that clean.
Heading into the off season too, I think it's really important, and allow this to transition us, if you want to use this in just a minute, to the offensive coordinator thing, because I think this off season we could make foundationally as an organization moves that would put DK Metcalf in his place and that would assert power. And here's how you make that happen. There's a couple things that would have to be involved. First of all, the offensive coordinator that we'll hire, and we'll talk about names in just a minute. I have a name that I like that would really send the message to this offense, to the league, to the locker room: we are going to run the football. And when Brian Schottenheimer got released, they cited fundamental differences in philosophy. So essentially, Pete's wanted to run the football. Brian is going away from it. Pete wants to run the football. And so I think the first step is to get an offensive coordinator that is going to run the football and agree with Pete Carroll. The next thing that you have to do is go into the draft and through free agency, bring in offensive linemen and find ourselves a new beast mode. And while we're unable to fully replicate a beast mode altogether, we can try and put together pieces to go in the draft and get a guy like a Trey Sermon, get a guy like a Najee Harris, or get a guy like a Jamar Jefferson. Any of those three guys would be reasonable options. And I don't think they'd instantly come in and put DK in their place. But if we foundationally brought in an offensive coordinator to insert this new game plan, that's the old plan that's being renewed and reintroduced as the new plan, where we have a run first approach. And I think Trey Sermon specifically, unfortunately, he does have that injury. But if we were able to bring in Trey Sermon, just the fear that I see Trey Sermon bring on his opponents whenever he steps on the field for Ohio State, that is the type of fear that would put DK in his place. That is the type of fear that could command our locker room. That is the type of fear that could bring back that beast mode energy to Seattle. And that, combined with a new offensive coordinator dedicated and focused on running the football like Pete Carroll wants, as well as going out and making the moves to get offensive linemen this offseason and to put that as a priority, the top of our list. I think if we were to re-embrace the run game this offseason, that would be the way to do it, to put DK in his place systematically and with the mob.
Norb, I think we should definitely make it clear, though, that we all want DK Metcalf to be here and succeed, right? It's starting to feel like a little bash session on DK.
Oh, yeah.
It's more like, hey, we're talking to dad and uncle and grandpa and everybody around saying, hey, what do we do about this kind of problem child that's got all these gifts? The gifted child, right? He's all these gifts. He's just not knowing how to use them. And then he gets himself in trouble because his timing in life is just off. Right. So, and I don't know his background and who's in his circle or what have you. I think we're more like that group that just cares about him and wants to see him succeed before he does something stupid on the field that costs him a contract or costs him something else. When he's a guy that, we've all brought up some just great points in terms of things that you guys could, recommend to help him. So I would just like to see him make that change, and hopefully he just matures, like just mature and recognize, that you cause some issues. You also make mistakes, as we've said. You made some drastically huge mistakes. I mean, can you imagine if the linemen were screaming at him on the sideline because he had a ball hit his helmet, and then we didn't win that game? Or if you did something else and somebody went, our kicker, our badass kicker who makes more tackles and is the hardest hitting guy around, went up to him and said, "Oh, you didn't do this now. Now my field goal is 52 yards instead of 48 yards." Right? You just got to kind of recognize the surroundings of who you're with and what you're at. And that's the psychology of the game. Is Pete Carroll going to be able to do that with him? He's such a player's coach, and it's a term that gets thrown around so much that sometimes that can become the undoing of you when you're too kind. You become the substitute teacher that can't reel your class in because you let it go too much. And that happened in the game. Kind of hey, just calm down. Man, sit the guy out for a series. Let him cool off.
Well, and it's like being a parent, Some of you guys, I know, Bill, you got kids, I've got kids, and there are times when it's that balance between do we be the strict sort of put your fist down, spare the rod, spoil the child, and how much do we kind of get in there and be the compassionate, try to be the loving parent that's supportive and all that stuff. It's a fine balance, but sometimes you got to be hard when push comes to shove, and I don't think they've done it enough. You bring up that point about pointing out the mistakes he's made. Imagine in that Dallas game if they'd lost because he had showboated and dropped that ball that would have been the scoring touchdown. We were lucky he scored the game winner. In some ways, I felt like that sort of prevented him from feeling the impact of dropping about that ball getting knocked out because, hey, I won the game. I got the game-winning touchdown. So, it's one of those things where he never really, I don't think, learned the lesson because it didn't hurt that hard. And sometimes you got to hurt a hard lesson to get it. Yeah.
Right?
So until you really feel the burn of your mistakes, you don't necessarily learn from it because you kind of came out going, hey, I'm the winner. I was the best. I scored the touchdown. We'll forget about that little thing. But, it kind of repeats itself and obviously hadn't learned from that mistake yet.
And I don't read all the chat stuff because it's all covered with our faces and stuff, but I see every once in a while something will come up, and I've seen multiple times people talking about the chase down. Like, well, hey, but he's still, the big Buda Baker player. It's just like with our kids. One tremendous right doesn't allow for one tremendous wrong. So just because he made a great play there doesn't mean, okay, well, go ahead and do that. Like with my kids, hey, just because you took out the trash doesn't mean you can punch your sister, right? You have to make sure that you take the good and you take the exciting stuff and the great stuff, but you have to keep the negative stuff minimal. I mean, that's how your team succeed. And that's what a coach has to do. I mean, Squabs and Steves and all you guys, you got to agree that it's still at the end. One guy's in charge of the organization. It all starts there. And so with me in my career, and Norb, you listen to me all the time when you'd mic me up, those games would end. I took responsibility for everything. Everything was my responsibility as the head coach. That's why I chose to be a head coach. If I didn't want to, I should have gone and been a coordinator or something else. I wanted that responsibility, but at the end, it all stops there. And after your point about Paul Allen, man, spot on. When you don't have that up above, man, that's big stuff. So those are the concerns I have in the offseason. Like that person, Pete Carroll's not going to change his personality.
It's cool, but you brought up beast mode. You brought up getting the next beast mode. Imagine if beast mode was still in the locker room. Because remember how beast mode, he was such a respected guy in there. And I just wonder, could he have been that guy? Because he's not a loud guy, but he walks into the room, you immediately respect him. What you're just talking about, that physically imposing, but he's got a quiet, demanding demeanor about him that, he might have said, yo, man, we got to talk a little bit about this, And I would have loved for that to happen. That would have been valuable, so priceless value right there.
It just would have been different because when we had beast mode, we had that dedication to the run game. And Pete Carroll, in his closing press conferences, the same reason we got rid of Brian Schottenheimer is because it's not just about running the football more efficiently, because we were pretty efficient on the year running the football. It was about running the football more. Chris Carson doesn't demand those carries, but when beast mode was in Seattle, he did. Beast mode and Chris Carson are apples and oranges. That's why I say we go after a new guy with a new approach and try and treat him with the beast mode mentality, and that way it's more of the system that is getting DK to correct his actions rather than necessarily gone up to DK. But I know DK wouldn't be complaining about getting the football because beast mode would be getting it and would be successful because of it.
Squabble, I need you to unpack that a little bit, and I want to know if Steezy agrees with you on the Carson front. I'm not going to give my opinion on what you just said. So on what you just said about Carson and it being apples and oranges, unpack that a little bit with Carson, and I want to know if Steezy agrees with you, since you guys are kind of the same age, see the same things.
Well, and it's not 100% Carson's fault, because I believe Carson runs as hard as he can, and he runs every single play like it's his last. But it's about our philosophy as a whole, and it's about our environment, our culture in Seattle. When Beast Mode was here, we were handing him the football. We ended up losing Beast Mode and a Super Bowl because we went away from Beast Mode in the Super Bowl. So Beast Mode was our culture. He was our style of play. He was our locker room. He was our everything. Chris Carson was never that for Seattle. When Chris Carson got here, it was the Russell Wilson era. It was the Russell Wilson wave. It was to make the offense let Russ cook time. That's the problem. Chris Carson, given the same opportunity with Beast Mode, this would be a different story. But Chris Carson was never given that opportunity, and unfortunately, we're getting a little bit late in Chris Carson's career to start that now, especially with his injury history. So I think we need to bring in someone new so that we can restart that mentality of, look, we're going to pound the rock. We're going to be physical. We're going to do this, and if you're not with this, you don't belong in Seattle, and I think DK will choose to stay.
Man, somebody in the super chat says, it's pretty funny, Kobe Jones says, we're going off so hard on DK. Whew, I'm glad we're not the Steelers with guys dancing on logos. No.
but that's apples and oranges, man.
It is.
Dancing
it's
on logos after
deal.
game doesn't impact the game itself. Right, that's not an internal change, the complex of what play calling and stuff like that.
It might piss off the opponent. It might annoy the opponent, but yeah, internally, it's not affecting the play plays. Right. That's true. That's a whole different thing.
Steezy, what was your thought on the Carson? I'm curious what you think on the Carson front, because I know what Norb and I think.
I mean, as long as the price is right, I feel like, he should definitely stay, just because this year when he was gone, we definitely felt his absence. And I understand he's injury prone, but I just think that this year we never really got a chance to unleash him. We had all these other guys, and as I mentioned last week in my 3 keys, I wanted to see Chris Carson get above 17 carries. I wanted to see him get above 90 yards. None of those things happened. Game flow definitely helped, and definitely didn't help in that regard, but I just feel like he never really got established this season. And so I just think that as long as the money's right, as long as he's not asking for too much money, he does have an injury history. So I don't see any team out there willing to throw a whole lot of money at him. I don't think there's going to be too many offers for him. I've been hearing that the Buffalo Bills might try to go after him, but I think as long as the money's right, he's still, I think, a good fit for the team. But I do agree with Squab in the sense that, I would like us to see some, I would like to bring in some new running back blood into the locker room, because I'm not sure Carlos Hyde is a lock to return. Rashad Penny, I've kind of given up on Rashad Penny. Travis Homer, we know what he is. He's a third down back and not much more. DJ Dallas, maybe there's something there, but he's still raw himself. So, yeah, I agree with Squab, but I also think that as long as the money's right, he should stick around. But maybe not as a lead back. If we were to get somebody of any of those running backs that Squad mentioned, then maybe, Carson doesn't have to be the lead guy. Maybe he could be a complimentary piece. And I don't know if he's going to be okay with that, but if we do pick up a guy better, then he's just going to have to deal with it, I guess.
Well, if we're going to pick up somebody better, in the draft, we're going to have to do it without a first rounder, because as we all know, we don't have a first rounder this
which I think is great.
Draft.
We're not good at first round picks. I love our third through sixth round. We've historically been awful.
Yeah, that's true. Real quick, Paul Third in the super chat says, how many dynasties feature Diva receivers? That's a good question to ponder.
Before they lost New England Patriots with Randy Moss. Jerry Rice was a dynasty with the 49ers.
Michael Irvin with the Cowboys.
Well, I guess it depends what you define as diva, because every great receiver wants the ball, but there's that fine line between being a great receiver who demands the ball and diva to the point where the attitude is causing problems in the locker room. I think there's a big difference between the two of them, and it's a fine line, I think. But
and we wanted AB.
I know, right?
Although right now AB's looking a lot more quieter and not drama queen than our own DK right now. I'm just saying.
That's Brady.
Here's a crazy thing. Somebody said in the chat, Dragon Movie Guy says, release Tyler Lockett, save $10 million in cap space. Are you freaking out of your mind? Are you crazy? Okay, you're just trolling at this point.
But we can't even give that any attention. That's just ridiculous.
All right, that's crazy.
All right, the moderators do those things.
Can I weigh in on Chris Carson here real quick?
Man.
Just a couple thoughts, because I fancy myself. I'm just a self-proclaimed running backs guy. I love running backs. I was a running back. I study running backs. Walter Payton's my favorite of all time.
Love Walter Payton.
Sweetness, baby.
So I try to pay attention to the style of running backs, what they do. And Chris Carson has a little bit of beast mode in him, meaning he runs exceptionally hard. There's no quit in that guy. He moves the pile and he gets forward yardage. The problem is he's not a breakaway threat. Has he had a couple long runs? Sure, but he is not a breakaway threat. And when you have a guy like that that's not a breakaway threat, I think what it does is it limits the scope of what you're able to accomplish from the running back position. I'm not saying that Chris Carson shouldn't be the starting running back, because Pete Carroll, I'm not breaking any news here, I know for a fact Pete Carroll loves Chris Carson, loves him, wants him back for sure. But when you're talking about the draft, Squabo, and some of the names that you brought up, a couple of those guys do have home run hitting capability, and they are tough runners. So from that standpoint, if you are going to change your philosophy, you're going to go back to the focus of the run, then you may as well revamp everything you're doing. And I agree with you. Bring in another running back to see if you might be able to upgrade at that position. Revamp the way your offensive line blocks. Instead of doing a hybrid of the zone blocking scheme, then maybe you go back to full zone blocking. I don't know what the solution is, but if you're going to make that commitment with a new offensive coordinator, then I say you go all the way and not just try to half-ass it and piecemeal things together to try to get back to where you were.
Yeah, I love Carson too, but first of all, I wish we would bring back the fullback. Please bring back the fullback.
Yes.
Get in the dang I formation, or get into split backs and send a receiver out on a hot route and keep a running back in to protect. Because in this game this last week, it was one of the rare times that we never kept our running back into block. And I broke that down yesterday. We kept sending them out, and they're just rushing 4, and we're thinking we were getting them with 5, and it wasn't working. So that was one piece. But yeah, with Carson, the reason why I love him, I don't feel like we need to have a breakaway guy. You need a guy that can get you good running yardage on first down or second down and put you in better positions than 2nd and 10, 3rd and 10, or what have you. And when, yes, I get that Carson gets injured and he's hurt a lot and stuff. Is he past his running back prime? The way I saw him run when he was healthy, it opened up our bootlegs. It opened up our short passing game. It opened up all sorts of things. So I'd rather have a guy that can just run hard and get us the 6 and 7 yards and put us in good second, third position where you can call any play you want, because that is when we were at our best with Marshawn. He ran with a fullback sometimes during that era. People forget that we ran 2-back stuff. So Marshawn could power his thing, but we had a couple of fullbacks. He had his college teammate out there helping him sometimes. And then, then they have the bootlegs and all those other things. So that's where, you don't need a superstar guy that can break away. And those are really hard to find in the NFL.
They are. But Marshawn, the difference between Carson and Marshawn, and tell me if you agree, everybody on the panel, Carson moves the pile. Marshawn could break tackles. And that's what I mean by a breakaway threat. Like Marshawn could break tackles and then get to some open field. Chris Carson's not super big on breaking tackles. He's more big on moving guys.
I would totally agree. Totally agree. Marshawn's one of the best we've ever seen at breaking, first contact.
Yeah.
But Carson, that's one of those, like Norb always says, what do you risk by giving up something, whether it's a coach or a player? There's not a lot of people that come in their first year and make a massive difference. Not a corner, C-O-R-N-E-R, a cornerback can come in and make a difference in his first year. A receiver can oftentimes come in their first year. Running backs, every once in a while you get like a Barkley and some of those guys, but then look what happened to Barkley when they overuse him, then he gets hurt. So it's just such a tough call. Tough things to change.
I want to jump in. I want to jump in real quick on the Carson thing, because I love Carson. You guys know this, right? I've been saying this whole time, feed Carson. I said in this Rams game, they've been saving him for that game. Feed him until the wheels come off. And they didn't do that, and I know they did try to early on, but I don't feel like they committed to it. They didn't really commit to anything. It was a weird, like I said, no identity in that thing. But I don't know. I disagree with you, Brian. I feel like he is a break the first tackle. Most times, when he's not getting swallowed up in his own backfield, he's pretty good at making that first defender not take him down. And granted, he doesn't have the breakaway. He can get through that first tackle and turn a 2-yard gain into like a 7-yard gain and then push the pile for a couple more. But I do think he's got more than just hit the pile and push it forward. He does have that elusiveness, but he's definitely not a breakaway speed guy. They need that other guy to be it. And I think that's why they got Rashad Penny to be the speed breakaway guy. We just haven't seen him do it because he's turning into the CJ Procise of the 2020s, sadly, right now, until he can prove otherwise. And maybe next year he does prove that he can be the guy every down back that can break down the field and get some open runs. But I hope they bring him back, but I'm discouraged because of the fact that A, how that game ended, and then B, the fact that he's unfollowed the Seahawks and Russell Wilson on social media. From what I've heard, I don't know if that's completely true, but
who has?
Chris Carson.
Carson did that?
That's what I heard. I didn't look this up. Yeah. That's what I heard. A lot of people were confirming that he unfollowed him. That to me just speaks that it's not a good sign. Now, of course, when they just get together and talk money, that can all change. I'm back. Follow me, the Seahawks. But I would love to see him back. I feel like he's got more tread in the tires, and I don't think he got his fair chance. If they truly are committing to the run game moving forward, I think he could be a big part of that. Unless there's
and I can understand him getting frustrated. We didn't find any identity when we needed it the most. We felt like we were getting it on defense when we didn't have it the first 8 weeks. Everybody's calling for his head, and then all of a sudden we start getting aggressive. And Adams is downhill and he's coming off the edge, which we didn't see very much of this last week. And all of a sudden now for 7.5 weeks we're awesome. And then the final quarter of the first 3 quarters of the 49ers game, defense starts playing back in the zone, and then in the Rams game we sit back and play in the zone. And then offensively, I'm sure Carroll was preaching all along. We're a running team, running first. Yet we had one guy break the yardage record for our team and another guy break the receptions record for our team. 2 receivers break long-standing records, and we're going to profess to be a running team. And then when we get into a game where the first 4 plays were sack, and then incomplete deep left to DK, incomplete deep right to Lockett, sack on the first down play of the next series. That's not committing to the run and putting Carson in a position where we could set up all the other things. that's just troubling.
Yeah.
So if I'm Carson, I probably want out of here to somewhere where if you're going to say you're committed to the run, commit to the run. Unless
maybe if the coordinator was a big part of that, and obviously they said they had philosophical differences, maybe that was at the heart of it. Because I think now it's kind of becoming evident that
no doubt about it.
He wanted to throw it, and if Carson left, and I think that all happened before they announced that he was let go. So maybe Chris Carson might be going, wait a second, or if they're changing coordinators, maybe there's still a chance here we can work things out. But
Schottenheimer was definitely the guy that wanted to spread the ball out and throw it all over the place. There's no doubt about it. That's no secret. That's what he wanted to do. And I think that's what stifled us, though, at the end, is that we got out of that. And all of a sudden, we went from 30-point games down to the 20 low games, which I liked. But Russ, on those games when we were winning those games, he was going, 17 for 22 for 189 yards, but high percentage because the play action was working, some of those things. But then all of a sudden we went back into this, let's spread it out because we're in the playoffs. But we didn't do what we had done 2 weeks prior against the Rams. 2 weeks prior, we were coming downhill, getting after it. Adams coming off the edge, all those things. I think we thought Wolford was going to play. So we set for that, and defensively we didn't make an in-game adjustment to, hey, you know what? Since he's not playing, let's go back to what we did 2 weeks earlier. And same thing on the offensive side of the ball. We just had to get out of our rhythm for the reasons we've already beat to the ground.
Brian, I got to mention that everyone in the chat's talking about it. I think they're more interested in this than they are in our conversation. But Nick LeBeau, Cameron Hughes, and a bunch of people are saying, Brian, run, the cops are after you.
Oh, yeah, man.
What's going on back there, man?
It's going to bring a lot of viewers to the show if you get arrested right now, Brian. Norb's getting to 1 million subscribers tonight.
They're on to you, Brian. Run!
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, I don't know what's going on over there, but somebody got pulled over.
People don't realize that Brian actually has a crew cut. He doesn't wear glasses during the day. And, he never wears the hat and all those things. So it's
oh, yeah.
Next thing you know, we hear the door. Boop, 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 boop. Oh, my God, there's the police. We know you're in there. Boop, 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 boop.
Bad boys. Steezy, you've been pretty quiet, man. You got to have some thought on all this type of stuff. The OC.
Which part specifically? The cops or?
Pick the cops. Yeah, man, exactly.
I'm playing.
That's a great one, man.
Let's I mean, we talked so much. I didn't think we were going to harp on DK so much, but it's amazing how the conversation just took a life of its own. But I guess you kind of already transitioned into it. But the firing of Schottenheimer, do we all agree that was the right move, or does anybody feel like that was not the right move? Who doesn't think it was the right move? Who disagrees with the firing?
I'll wait till the end. I hate it, but I'll wait till the end.
Okay, so who is anybody else? Is Bill the only one who disagrees with it, or is Brian, Squabo, Steezy, any of you guys feel like you were not happy that he got fired?
I'm kind of so-so on it. I mean, I'm not exactly happy that he got fired, but I'm not really disappointed that he got fired. So, I mean, I think, he's been there for 3 years, and we didn't really do too much in those. I mean, we had the let Russ cook phase and, beginning of the season, but I'd like to see some new blood. So I'm not too disappointed, but yeah, kind of so-so on it.
Squabo, what about you? Are you in favor? Were you in favor when you saw the news? Like, okay, good.
In all honesty, I'm not 100% sure yet. I am supportive of this as long as our following steps continue to be along the path that we've been talking about. We all know that Schottenheimer's the one that wanted to spread the ball out. So if we go forth and we go get a Jermar Jefferson in the draft, a Trey Sermon in the draft, somehow find a way to get our hands on some of these players, and we go after some linemen and we establish the run and we move forward running the football, and next year we advance in the playoffs, whereas this year we didn't, and our offense starts to hum again and Russell Wilson starts to look great again, I think it's a success. It's one of those things. We'll figure out how good of a decision this was down the line. But right now, I am in support as long as we are able to change it moving forward. You talked about how Chris Carson and some of the differences with Chris Carson and beast mode. And Chris Carson, I think one of the biggest differences, Chris Carson's not afraid of nobody. Beast mode intimidates the other team. Chris Carson's not afraid of the other team, but beast mode intimidates the other team. We bring in a Trey Sermon. Trey Sermon intimidates the other team, and that's what we need back in the running back room.
Brian, what do you think? Did you want Schottenheimer out? Were you happy with that move?
Yeah, I'm happy with it not because I'm against throwing the ball all over the place, not because I'm really throwing up my hands and saying we need to run the ball more like the olden days. I just dislike the lack of creativity. And he's a lot like his father. For those who don't know, Marty Schottenheimer, there's a term called Marty ball that's used as a pejorative to describe a particular type of offense.
You're going prehistoric here.
Typically known as a run, pass type of offense, but more importantly, it's an offense that didn't have any creativity and didn't prove to be successful for Marty Schottenheimer in the playoffs. Now, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. His son did a lot of the same things, had a lot of the same philosophies with a couple tweaks here and there based on some of the newer things that are done in the NFL. But for me, it just wasn't creative enough, and maybe more importantly, he wasn't able to make adjustments on the fly. Gosh darn it, we saw Steve Sarkisian during a college football game as an offensive coordinator for Alabama make some significant adjustments in a following series that were successful based on what he saw the previous series. And at the NFL level, you should absolutely be able to do something like that. We've seen and had offensive coordinators in the past that have, and Schottenheimer just wasn't that guy.
Hey, real quick, Super Chat, Kobe Jones says we have a very tough schedule next season. That's something we'll talk about in another show. Do. Dave Drive Swizz says, who do you guys want as OC? I guess we will talk about that in a second. I do want to let people know, people are asking, are we doing the trivia tonight? We are. It's a good one. BJ1234 helped contribute to that, and I customized it to be a little bit more playoff-centric and Seahawks history-centric, so I appreciate BJ1234. As Brian looks back and sees that the cops have left,
gone.
You lucked out, man. They did catch you. You stuck away. Where were we here? We were talking about the Bill. So saving you for last because you're the one guy saying you did not like it.
Did we hear from? Did Steezy say anything or others? Did you just want to go to me?
I think so. Yeah,
I was kind of just neutral.
Steezy was 50.
Neutral. Yeah, everybody's got neutral. Yeah. So you're clearly not. So
no, not at all, for a couple of reasons. First off, when we hired him, did we not know that he was going to be the spread the football out, do all those things type of guy, right? I mean, that's what we did. Secondly, everybody who's been negative in the chat about us talking about DK and all those type of things, DK and Locke and those guys have 500 yards each, maybe, and 50 catches each when we go to the hard running game. So if we love the flavor of a DK and deep balls and all that type of stuff, well, we kind of just got rid of that. And I look at it from a personal standpoint as a coach. Now, I didn't have to move my families when I, resigned, after nearly 20 years and go to somewhere else. Guy loses his job. So I get that we could sit here and go, well, I'll get rid of him and do all that type of stuff. Guy now has to uproot his family and go during the, pandemic times and all that other stuff. So I'm going to put that aside, but I have to say that from a standpoint of anytime guys get fired, you're 12-4, you've done a pretty darn good job. And we haven't hired anybody yet. It's not like, the guys that get hired in college or they're fired and hired and all those other things. But I bring up college for this reason. National championship game, a guy by the name of Sarkisian who's starting to make quite a comeback for himself. Granted, he had some phenomenal players, but all of a sudden, look at the type of plays and the schemes and as Abker was saying, the creativity. And you just rarely see that in the NFL, but for a guy named Andy Reid, who's very creative, and we're not going to get him. But that's why, since we've given it up on Schottenheimer, and I hate that we did it. If we're going to go to someone that we think is going to change all this stuff up, we're not, because our head coach has been saying running game, pound it, shorten the game. Hopefully Russ does some in the fourth quarter. It's been the recipe for him all the way back to USC. That's what he's done. Running game, defense, shorten games, win in the fourth quarter. That's why I would love to throw my name into that. And I would have used, if it wasn't for Pete Carroll, who I love, but his style, the way he wants things is very simple. Norb, you remember, man, you and your partner, Mike, were filming the game when I went 3 onside kicks against an undefeated team and we're 21-0 at the beginning of the game. And I always said, we will always strike first, strike hard, no mercy, right? The very first trick play is going to come from me. The first trick play of the game is going to come from our offense because we want to be the first ones to explode. And every single time, if you turn the ball over inside the 40, we're going home run ball right out the bat. So if I had a DK Metcalf, I'm telling you, if you fumble on your side of the field, we're going home run ball, our best guy versus your guy, to make you pay the price twice. Like, I don't see any of those type of offensive philosophies in our system. And yes, we're the second winningest team in the last decade, so you can't argue with that. But we're talking right here, right now. And right here, right now is I want to see the creativity. I want to see this stuff. A guy like Metcalf, I'm flipping the side of what I just was saying all along. That guy turns it around. I'm lining him up everywhere. I'm putting him in as a slot. I'm putting him in the backfield, put him in a motion. You're running reverses. You're doing stuff to make the defense think. And right now, defenses could just go, you know what? Run on first down, run on second down. Russ doesn't do RPO stuff anymore. He just does the RP. We can get Metcalf upset. So let's just focus on Lockett. Man.
Well, Mark,
I'm going to have to go back to coaching, Norb. Now I'm excited. I got to go back to playing my old trick.
He's lit.
Yeah.
we haven't ran trick plays since we had Bevel. Schottenheimer's never ran trick plays, and that's one of the biggest problems.
Our best trick plays are special teams. Have been a couple fake field goals. That's it, and fake punts. But not an offense.
Well, we remember Bevel used to do that the flea flicker. Remember the flea flicker where Marshawn would take the ball, the pass back to Russell? Back. We had a lot of touchdowns off of those, but we never did any of that fun stuff.
Which leads us to potential coaches because there was something called the Philly special. A guy ran a reverse trick play to a quarterback who circled up better than any receiver we've seen for a long time. You go back and watch. But he ran it to win the Super Bowl.
That's why there's a statue. That's why the statue of him for a quarterback who won them the Super Bowl in Philadelphia, who's no longer on that team.
But that's why I don't think he'll come here. As much as I would love for him to be named the next coach, the next coordinator. I know he has said he wants to be a head coach, but now we're about 48 hours since he left. And unless he's been hired in the last few hours that I haven't seen, Peterson's still out there as a Ferndale guy, a local guy who's been known to run trick plays. And talk about a guy who's going to get the respect of a Metcalf and others because of age, because he's been there, because he's won a Super Bowl. And I think Carroll's a defensive guy would say, yeah, if you want to come in, I'm letting you take care of the offense. Because he will pound it as an NFC East type of guy. He knows how to pound the rock, but he knows how to be innovative. You don't think Russ would get excited about that? He might spend less time selling perfume for his wife and jumping in videos and doing all this other stuff. And he might actually be interested in the playbook, which leads me to my final point. When you bring in a new coordinator, that's a whole new playbook you have to bring in. You brought up yesterday, Norb, as a question. Yes, a brand new playbook comes in. Now, guys are paid millions of dollars to learn that, but they have to now learn a new playbook, a new system. That can cause some issues.
We'll definitely need an off season to get prepared for that. We can't just rely on
the regular off season.
We already know all this.
We need a regular off season.
A regular off season. Hopefully that we'll get that this time. All right, so we've got a lot of people asked to let's get to the trivia thing, and I'm not sure, Brian. I know you mentioned before you're not sure if you could stay for it. Can you, or will you not be able to?
No, I got to roll it. And I was just going to say to Coach's point real quick about learning a new playbook. The one good thing that's on our side is we know that Russ is a master of learning a new playbook.
Absolutely.
When he went from NC State to Wisconsin, he learned the entire playbook in a very short amount of time so he could be a master at it, so he could lead his guys. So from that standpoint, I'm not worried. For the rest of the offense,
exactly.
Yeah, it could be a little bit tricky. So I don't have a name that I want to throw out for OC because I really don't care. I just want them to be creative, be able to make adjustments, and get along with Pete.
That sounds good to me.
Is Metcalf going to be excited when he's 38 pages in and he hasn't yet seen a pass play?
I wonder that too.
He's under contract.
I wonder that too when yeah, that's true. I wonder that too when Pete went on the record in his presser saying, "Yeah, we're going to go back to running the football." And I wonder if that was like even a little bit of a shot, kind of saying, "Look, man, this is not going to be all about you next year. It's going to be back to running. So you're going to have to get used to the fact that you're not going to be getting the ball."
Pass.
Oh yeah, we're not going to.
When we won the Super Bowl, we had 3 excellent receivers that just because they were superstars to us. I mean, Baldwin's one of the best guys in the league, but they were good enough, and they were all getting their due. But they can't expect to be 1,200-yard receivers or 100 receptions, which Lockett I don't think cares. Lockett would block every single play because he wants to win.
Yep.
Like you can just tell by every single play the guy plays hard. Like I imagine Squabble play like every play hard. Like Steezy works hard, like blue collar, get after it type of guys. So I'm not worried about. It's not like Russ isn't going to throw the ball 20 to 25 times a game. He just, as Steezy said, he can't be 11 for 25 or 8 for 25 or 12 for 25. High percentage, but that comes with a good running game.
Yep.
All right,
fellas, I gotta go.
So
appreciate everybody.
Are you turning yourself in? Is that what's happening?
Yeah.
You're gonna turn yourself in now.
My door.
All right, so Abker, thanks, man.
Take
It was
care,
good to see you, man.
Yeah,
if you want to follow Brian's stuff, check him out. He's on Facebook, Brian Abker, also on Twitter @Abker, and he is out. So
and most people don't know he was a long-time coach. He coached for a long time, and he was very successful in a very good program.
And a running back as
well. I didn't even know
well.
that myself.
Yeah, and a former running back, former stud.
I actually didn't know he was a running back. I didn't know he was a running back. So, yeah, you learn something new every day from the people around you. So,
yeah, but let me remind you of what happened last time we played this game, guys.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's right. March for OC won and that was actually Golden Seahawks, I believe, was the winner. And he was going under the pseudonym Marsh for OC. So that was pretty awesome.
Keep that up.
I love it. All right. So unless you guys wanted to throw a name in that you really want for OC.
Whoever finished second got their wish.
Yeah, it's true. Fired Shoddy. 1 second. How crazy is that? Marsh for
and
OC.
Norb got his favorite name.
Schmidtdog.
So
that was a
win-win-win.
Trifecta. Win-win-win. Oh, man. So,
Norb, you get the reference there on the win-win-win?
Oh, yeah. Of course.
Inside joke.
Inside joke and a practical application as well. All right. So I'm with you on the Peterson thing. I think it'd be great. I don't really have any of the names in there. I'm just curious. Squabo, Steezy, is any OC names that you guys have, like a front runner that you're hoping the Seattle would get? We'll do that real quick before we start this trivia.
I actually have a lot of names that I've been looking at. And you guys talk about the Doug Peterson thing. I don't necessarily love the Doug Peterson thing for a couple of reasons. And you guys were laughing at me a little bit last week for saying Peterson lost the locker room, but he lost his job within days. And I predicted within 2 years, and that prediction came true a lot sooner than I thought.
You were right.
He ended up losing his job.
Props to you, man. Props to you that you called that one. That move did not bode well to being on the team for next year or the draft or any of that, because he was out. And you called it sooner than it was going to be. But
and they're calling out their quarterback, too, for some of the stuff he said and caught on film. But, yeah, great call on your part.
But the point being, I don't want to bring a guy into our locker room that just lost their last one, and struggles to build relationships with quarterbacks. I'm trying to build Russell Wilson back up, build his confidence back up. And in my opinion, that's not the way to do it. I also and this is personally where we're probably going to disagree, because I'm the conservative guy when it comes to football on this show. I'm the one that wants us to take the points, and Doug Peterson forever does that. Exactly. And so that's why I disagree. I don't think Doug Peterson would be a great fit. I have a lot of names of people that, like, we've heard a lot of the popular names, like the Dave Canals, who's been with Pete Carroll since 2009 back at USC. And he's our pass game coordinator right now. The Pep Hamiltons of the world, the quarterback coach for the Chargers. The name that I like the most, and I've heard a lot of different names. I like Alex Van Pelt, who, for those of you who don't know, is a quarterback coach for the Browns. He's the one that called the plays versus Pittsburgh and put up all those points. Remember that. But the guy that I like the most, and the guy that I think could really establish the best locker room here, and it would kind of be a full circle thing, like the Niners and us go back and forth. We do little jabs. They'll take Robert Saleh. They'll take Richard Sherman. We'll take DJ Reed. We go back and forth. We'll take Mike Iupati, even, if it was after he'd been to Arizona as well. But we're going back and forth. We're taking players from each other. Mike Robinson back in the day. We go back and forth. We take jabs at each other. I want to go and get their guy, their run game coordinator, Mike McDaniel. He was on that Kyle Shanahan staff ever since 2017 when he got hired. He was on the Falcons Super Bowl staff when they made that run to the Super Bowl. He knows how to run a zone scheme. He knows how to change up the formation and keep similar schemes, so it's a lot easier for offenses to figure out than defenses. We'll run different formations and we'll run the same concept. So it looks different to a defense, but it's easy to understand and to get the principles down for an offense whose principles have been struggling, especially across the offensive line. So I say we go Mike McDaniel as our new offensive coordinator, because it's a guy that will follow what Pete Carroll has to say. It's a stab their schemes while also improving our own. He'll be on the same page as Pete Carroll, and it'll send a message to our locker room that we want to run the football.
All right. Squabo, that's great. Welcome back, Seahawks Martin, back in the show, just in time for the trivia contest. So, Martin, I'm glad you got your piano in, you got your dinner in, you're revived for the fourth quarter, man. Steezy, did you have anybody?
Don't be upset if it's not a name splash, guys. Like, people get upset with, it's not something we've heard of. I agree with
won't be.
Peterson. Get someone who's hungry. Get a quarterback coach or somebody else who wants to aspire to be a head coach. Those are the guys that are going to be innovative and still do what Pete Carroll needs to do.
Steezy, did you have a name you want to drop in the hat for OC?
I'm actually 100% with Squab. I was doing some last-minute research right before the show, and he was the name that was the most appealing to me, just because, for one, he's a running game coordinator for the Niners, and, what that feeling of taking somebody from the Niners, especially somebody who's on a rise, and if we were to get him on the Hawks next year, being that he has all this experience, with creating all these running schemes and all that. That'd be the perfect hire. And he's a low key name. That would hurt the Niners. So there's a whole bunch of wins in there. And yeah, I agree with Coach. You know, we're not really the type of team to bring in a big name offensive coordinator. And I was of the mindset that, I'd love to bring in Doug Peterson, you know, because as an offensive coordinator, he was a great offensive coordinator. And Squab, you made a great point. Yeah, he just lost his locker room in Philly. And so why bring him in here? I mean, I just feel like as an offensive coordinator, you know, he would definitely take a backseat to Pete, but I just think that's very unlikely. You know, he's still looking for a head coaching job somewhere out there. But Squab, I'm 100% with you, my brother. I love the pick.
That would be, and I like that 49er system as much as I like to hate on knock on them.
Bring back the fullback.
That system
they
is
run
really.
With the fullback.
Imagine the San Francisco 49er offense with Russell Wilson at quarterback. Actually, put a good quarterback in that system.
Ooh.
That would be pretty. That would be pretty tasty.
Yes. Oh yes.
All right. So I know people.
Just a joke.
I know people are really into want to get the trivia going. We're going to do it right here. Martin, do you have any OC names that you had on your list just to drop in real quick?
I mean, the guys hit all the points. I was thinking Doug Peterson, but after hearing what Squabo and Steezy said, yeah, it does make sense. I mean, you'd still put Doug Peterson out there. The dude's got a really good offensive mind. But from what Steezy and Squabble were saying, I think that makes sense. But we'll never know.
And with Peterson, he does bring in the trick play aspect, which we talked about. We haven't had a lot about that, so that's a little something you get with the little gambler in there. All right, so I think we're ready to start this trivia. I know everybody's been dying to do it, so let's do it. You guys ready? Let's do it. This is the best part. This is the best part of trivia is seeing all the names. So get ready. Get your Kahoot app going or Kahoot.com. Yes, keep it clean or I'm going to boot you. So here we go. The number is 795-0710. 795-0710. Let's let the name calling or the naming begin. Kobe Jones says, by the way, you think we could get the Chiefs OC? No.
No.
Not a chance. He wants to be a head coach. Yep. Normo Shoddy. NORBFAM Nation Edgar P. 1 yard line. Lil Beast 22111. Russell Fatson. Dang.
That's a good one.
Ori greater than Martin. Squeezy Pog. Aidan Pham. Command X. FBI got Apker. Just beat the Rams. Arctic Panther 69. Defense Cord Me. Marsh Dad. Doug Baldwin. Prez. Fire the Cannon. The Seahawk King. Why did you not run? Again, the number is 795-0710. Fire Carroll. Trey Jamal. DK's ego, not DK. Coach Marsh. Walrus. Oh my God. That's cruel, but it's kind of funny. Walrus. I've never heard that before. I have to write that one down. Norb for OC. No, you don't want me for OC. Just watch my Madden games and you'll change your mind real quick. Fire Pete Carroll. Vanessa Pretty. Thank you. Cal Dente. Stiglitz. I haven't seen Stiglitz in a while. Gase for OC. Cool is cool.
Kick him out. Kick that person out. Whoever Gase for OC is, kick him out.
Yeah, right.
No.
Yeah, I see some people talking about that. I was like, what, are you kidding me? Marsh for owner. Go Hawks. 49 ears. Baldwin greater than DK. We'll go about another 15 seconds. See if we can get 50 up in here. Dixon for MVP. Nor is dad. DK's daddy. We got 10 seconds. See, I'm not gonna say that one. Easy, folks. Easy. You're borderline right there. All right. 5, 4, 3. Hawks 2011. Adam Gase greater than Carroll. 2, 1. We broke 51. Unknown. I think we're ready to roll. Higher bevel. Seahawks Mr. TNOC. Russ 6. Russell Wilson. All right. Let's get this show on the road. That's enough names. 3, 2, 1. Let's go. All right. This is a good one. Again, thanks BJ1234. A combination of his questions and mine to put this one together. I'm looking forward to it. Here we go. Question number 1. How many playoff appearances have the Seahawks made? 16, 10, 13, or 19? How many playoff appearances have the Seahawks made? 16, 10, 13, or 19? Time is up. Okay, the tricky little question off the bat. 19 was the correct answer. 11 of you guys on YouTube got that one correct. Let's go to the panel. Steez, we'll start with you. What you got?
I went away with my gut. I was thinking 19 at first, but then I don't know what it was that told me to go 16, but I ended up going 16. Oh,
so close. It was in your gut. How many times has Steezy had it in his gut, the right answer, and he changed it? That reminds me of my daughter who didn't pass her written driver's test because she went back and changed too many answers and missed it by like one. She has to take it again. Sorry, Sophia. Sorry if I embarrassed you there. Anyway, Squabo, what you got?
I got it right. I know we've gone pretty much the entire Russell Wilson era, and then I know we went a whole bunch before that. And I remember seeing our record and knowing that it was obviously a lot more than 10, obviously a lot more than 13. I thought 16 was probably too low, so I went with 19.
All right, Squabo on the board. Let's go with Coach Marsh.
Yeah, I actually thought it was more than 19. So 19 was the one I chose because I actually thought it would have been higher.
You took the high. Okay. Martin, who hasn't been into trivia in quite a long time, welcome back to trivia, brother. What you got?
Well, that was a rough start. Obviously, I was only born in 2007, so yeah, I knew most of the Russell Wilson era except one, and then I remember 1983 off the bat, but then everything else was a blur. So I just went with 10.
Oh, 10? Oh man, 10.
I need to go a lot further back.
Oh,
I love that he says he was only born in 2007, and then he tosses out 1983, man. That's why I love you, man. That's why I think you're so great on the show.
The Seahawks Martin. He is we used to coin him the walking encyclopedia. He's been out of the loop for a while, so
the resident
get him rolling. All right, and real quick, QT Jinx, hey, thank you for joining the NORBFAM membership club. Appreciate it, QT Jinx. Welcome to the party, pal. All right, let's go to the YouTube scoreboard and let's see how things start here with the YouTube land. We've got Go Pack Go in first, NORBFAM Nation in second, Unknown in third, Cool is Cool, and Sky High Aviation in fifth. Next question. Russell Wilson recorded his highest passing yardage all time against which team? The New Orleans Saints, the Buffalo Bills, the Houston Texans, or the Arizona Cardinals? Russell Wilson recorded his highest passing yardage all time against which team? The Saints, the Bills, the Texans, or the Cardinals? Saints, Bills, Texans, Cardinals. Time is up. Oh, YouTube on point. Yes, the Houston Texans in that game in 2017. 23 of you guys got that one correct. Let's go to the panel. Steezy.
I say Houston. I still remember that shootout with Houston, him and Deshaun Watson, back and forth. So, definitely something I remembered. So,
do you guys remember who got the game winner?
Jimmy
Graham. Yep, Jimmy Graham. Hard to believe we didn't go to the playoffs that year. It's crazy. Squabo.
Thanks to Blair Walsh.
Yeah. Squabo?
I too remembered, and I too got this correct.
All right, so Squabo in the lead with 2, but Coach Marsh hot at his tail. Coach.
Yeah, I knew he'd had a big one there, but for some reason I thought he'd had a bigger one against Arizona at one point, so I did not get it correct.
Oh, a miss. Drops him in behind his second with Steezy. Can Martin get on the board? Martin.
You and me both, Coach. I'm just kidding. Yeah, I got that right.
Okay.
I remember hearing that game. I remember hearing that game. I remember Steve Rabel with the voice crack when he got the touchdown.
Yeah, he was cracking. His voice was cracking.
That was a great game.
That was exciting. That was a fantastic, exciting
Norb kind of calls games on Sunday with his dad like Rabel calls games. Like every play you take it for a touchdown. It's 2-yard gain, man. 2-yard game. You think it's gonna be a huge play when you watch Norb.
Hey, come on now.
I love it, man. I love it. Every play is like an energetic play.
I actually have a friend of mine, my kindergarten buddy named Rob. He said his complaints about Steve Rabel is that he makes every play sound like it's a 90-yard touchdown, and it only goes for 3 yards.
The toss pitch goes, he's around the end, and he got tackled for a 1-yard gain.
He talks so fast. He's like, cut outside, comes back in, run to the out, blah, 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 and he's taken down. Yeah, you guys are right.
Well, his job is to make it exciting. Maybe a little too exciting at times, but I still love him. All right, up 5 spots is Squeezy Pog is the greatest climber. Next question, number 3.
Yes.
What was their record when the Seahawks made their first playoff appearance? 10-6, 8-8, 9-7, or 11-5? What was the record when the Seahawks made their first playoff appearance? 10-6, 8-8, 9-7, or 11-5? Yeah, 10-6, 8-8, 9-7, 11-5. Time is up. Okay. Majority of you guys on YouTube got this one correct by hair. 21 of you said 9-7. That's correct. 9-7. Good enough to get the Seahawks in their first playoff game. Let's go to the panel, starting with Steezy. Steezy?
I said 9-7. I'm not sure if this was a question before, but I do remember getting this wrong, or it was phrased differently, but I remember getting it wrong the first time, and so
learn from your mistakes.
Sure that this time that wouldn't happen.
Okay, we got a tight game here going on, pretty good. Squabbo?
I think the reason that memory is a little fuzzy was because I asked him about it on my show, The Bolt. But I do remember that, and I also got it right, 9-7.
So Squabbo hitting it 100% here so far. Coach Marsh and Martin trying to catch up. Coach,
does he get to gain a point or lose a point for the self-plug during his answer? I love it. Either way. Of course, I remember it was during the prehistoric era. So, yeah, and the picture you pulled off of the best of the Kurt Warners that's ever played in the NFL, and he would have been a Hall of Famer had he not torn his knee.
Yes, that's right. On that AstroTurf with basically carpet over concrete.
Brutal.
Yeah. Seahawks
He was
Martin.
so fun.
Seahawks Martin, we're going back to the prehistoric Jurassic age, back before we drove cars with rock wheels. What do you got here? What's your answer?
I know the year. I don't know the record. I went with 10-6, and here comes my starter falling behind everyone.
Uh-oh.
No, you're come back.
Come on, that's only the first quarter. You're right. Let's go to the
Hawks.
Coach Marsh has a history of getting ejected.
Yeah. I got to be careful this game.
All right,
second ejection, I'm out for the season.
That's right. Let's go to the scoreboard here.
Right.
Go Pack Go.
Isn't
Going
he
strong.
suspended 2 games?
Yeah.
Look at that tight between NORBFAM Nation only down by 5. Sky High Aviation on fire in 3rd, Stiglitz in 4th, and Ori Greater than Martin in 5th. Sky High Aviation has got a hot 3-streak answer going on. Next question. True or false? The Seahawks had a better win percentage under Brian Schottenheimer than Darrell Bevell. True or false? The Seahawks had a better winning percentage under Brian Schottenheimer than Darrell Bevell. True or false? I understand he played more games under Bevell, but we're talking overall win percentage. 50-50 chance. Schottenheimer greater than Bevell. This is everything. All right, so the answer is false. 29 of you on YouTube got this one correct. Let's go to the YouTube scoreboard. Squeezy or Squabba, you were asking a question. You're asking, did that include playoffs? This is all time, every game, total. Steezy.
I said false. I kind of just had a hunch. I was looking back to all the regular seasons that Brian Schottenheimer had. He only had 3 of them with us. So 12-4, 11-5, and 10-6. And the fact that Darrell Bevell actually had more seasons, that actually doesn't play out in his favor. And so I was just like, you know what? I'm going to just go with Shotty.
It's a good call. All right. Let's go to Squabbo.
Man, I was stuck on this, and then I asked you that question, and that made it very clear to me that it was false.
So Squabs gets his lead.
We sucked in the playoffs.
All right, so Squabbo maintains his lead with 4. Coach Marsh.
Yeah, I knew it was that, but now all I'm thinking about is what Steezy just said with those numbers. I mean, 33 and 15, and we got rid of a guy. 12 wins, 11 wins, and 10 wins. And man, apparently that's just not good enough to keep around. But yes, I got it correct.
All right, so Coach Marsh gets a point there. Martin.
Yeah, I got this right. I just kind of thought about it. Especially, I really put the the 13-3 in the thought. So yeah, just decided to go with false, and I got it right.
I put that in there just as a way to sort of, as much as I also was behind or in favor of the change, it is ironic when you look at the winning percentage that he had and all the accolades that were, achieved this year that were firing the offensive coordinator who helped architect that. But that's the way the ball bounces. All right, here we go.
In beast mode.
I wonder if Norton, don't answer the question, it's rhetorical, but think if Norton had been the one fired, based on if they just went half the overall thing, not how you finished, but just how it all panned out.
If it had been decided at the halfway point of the season, there'd be no question who would have been gone. All right, let's go to the scoreboard here. NORBFAM Nation slides to the top. Go Pack Go drops to second. Sky High Aviation stays in third. R-Chan up to fourth. And Unknown into the fifth spot. Next question. What year did Chuck Knox and Kenny Easley win Coach of the Year and Defensive Player of the Year? 1984, 1983, 1987, or 1985? What year did Chuck Knox and Kenny Easley win Coach of the Year and Defensive Player of the Year? 84, 83, 87, or 85? Time is up. Look at that. Wonder Woman 1984 is the correct answer. 16 of you guys on YouTube got this one correct. I don't know where that came from.
That was like a joke grenade he told it. It took a few seconds to go off in my brain, but I figured it out.
Steezy, let's start with you.
I was a year off. I just completely guessed. I said 1985.
Oh, okay. I remember this was going to be either 83, 84. Those are the two playoff years with the four of them. But 84 was it. Sorry, Steez. Went back to the prehistoric era on you. That was actually, again, that was BJ. BJ1234 did this question. Squabo for the lead. To maintain the lead.
Nah. I didn't know this one. I guessed and said 87.
Cloudy is your memory at this time. Coach Marsh, this is perfect. You were alive and kicking back at this time.
Oh, man. Yeah, because this is where they made those silver helmets from the plate tectonic movement that was taking place back then. So, yeah, you go back to prehistoric era, man, it's a no-brainer, 1984.
So the coach gets into a tie with Squabo with 4 points each. Steezy at 3, but Martin a chance to get back to the race. Can he do it?
Nah. I went with 1983.
Oh, that was a good. That's a good call. I mean, that's the closest it can be. But I'm sorry, not close enough. So we got Squabo and Coach at 4, Steezy at 3, and Martin with 2. Let's go to the YouTube scoreboard, see how we're doing over there. NORBFAM Nation stays on top. Go Pack Go still on fire with 5 straight answers, but still behind NORBFAM Nation, which is where they belong. Sky High Aviation in third place. R-Chan in fourth, and Normo Shoddy. No more shoddy. I gotta say it right. No more shoddy. Okay, in fifth. I gotta change my accent a little bit. No more shoddy. No more shoddy. Okay. Go Pack Go again has 5 answers in a row, but NORBFAM Nation at first. Here we go. Next question. Number 6. What was Russell Wilson's game high for rushing yards this season? 58, 84, 52, or 60? What was Russell Wilson's game high for rushing yards this season? 58, 84, 52, or 60? 58, 84, 52, or 60. Time is up. All right. YouTube got this one right. The correct answer was 84. 20 of you on YouTube got this correct. Let's go to the panel and see how you guys remember this season. Steezy.
Week 7 against the Arizona Cardinals when we lost in overtime.
Good memory, man. He's got his Russell, details and stats dialed up. Squabo.
Yeah, just I didn't know the exact number, but I knew none of the other ones were high enough, so 84.
Nice. Coach Marsh.
Yeah, I didn't recall it being that high, so I did not get it correct.
Oh, Oh, a slip here.
We usually lose when he
tends to have big runs in Arizona, I've noticed. All right, so that puts Squabble at 5. Steezy
just
and Coach.
awful passes. He just has
awful passes in Arizona. Great runs, awful passes. That's pretty much the theme. But he actually has some great passes, too. The Tyler Lockett connections in that game were out of this world. Squabble with 5, Steezy and Coach with 4, and Martin with 3. Let's go to the scoreboard on YouTube. How are we doing over here? Is NORBFAM Nation still on top? They are. NORBFAM Nation number 1, Go Pack Go, hot on their heels. Sky High Aviation in 3rd, Archan in 4th, and Stiglitz in 5th place. Cameron Hughes climbing fast, up 17 places. Next question. Number 7. Before 2020, in which year did the Seahawks score the most points in the season? 2005, 2018, 1984, or 2015? Before 2020, in which year did the Seahawks score the most points in a single season? 2005, 2018, 1984, or 2015? And time is
postseason?
up. Yes. So, there's your answer. 19 of you guys got that correct. 2005. 2005. Let's go to the panel. That was our, of course, 2005, the first Super Bowl team led by Matt Hasselbeck and Mike Holmgren. Let's go to Steezy.
I said 2005 because that was also the year that Sean Alexander won MVP to the tune of, I think it was 28 rushing touchdowns. So if a running back was, scoring that many times, you'd have to think that the offense was pretty explosive.
We had one of the best offenses. That's why going into this game, it just felt like we were going to run away with this thing.
That offensive line was crazy.
And he just had
a special come out on him as well. A really neat special about him, even though he was a soft running back. He had a phenomenal line.
Yeah, had one of the greatest offensive lines to run behind as well. Oh, so disappointing how we did not win that game. All right, Squabo.
I got it right as well. Everything that he said, combined with some of the questions that I've asked. I know Sean Alexander is the player on the Seahawks that have scored the most points outside of kickers all time. So yeah. I knew he was on top of that list. And then also when you said that playoffs included, I was like, yeah, definitely 05 then.
All right, Coach.
In the West Coast offense. Yeah, well, because most people think modern day football is where you get all the scoring and stuff. The thing is, other than Eminem on my playlist and this show, I'm pretty much stuck with Johnny Lawrence in the 80s. So I actually thought 1984 was the number that it was. I didn't realize that we had that many points in the West Coast offense.
I jumped the gun. I gave you credit before credit was due.
Yeah,
all right.
I just got stuck in the 80s. I thought Dave Craig, because a lot of people don't realize Jim Zorn was the third quarterback ever to throw for 4,000 yards in his first 3 seasons. So they've actually thrown the forward pass before the 2000 season in the Seahawks history.
Oh, nice.
So I just thought it was back then, but it was Dave Craig back then.
Okay, well, things are getting a little more interesting. Martin, what you got?
Funny story. So every trivia I play, I come in with an undercover name on Kahoot. I love to do it. It's my tradition. But anyway, just like Coach Marsh, I jumped the gun, and the second I pressed 1984, I realized, oh shoot, it was 2005. But I gotta be honest, so I got it wrong.
Oh, okay. So are you not? You mentioned your pseudonym on there, but I assume we're not going to know that until the game is over.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Keep it secret. Keep the mystery.
Yeah, keep
the suspense. All right. We'll find out soon enough.
Rory is greater than Martin.
I would never call myself that.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I don't think you would either.
By the way, I whoever wins this, Cameron or Golden Seahawks from last week, we're doing a panel tomorrow, so hopefully you'll be able to join. Whoever wins this show will join a special guest panel tomorrow. So that is in the works. So we'll get details to come. All right, let's go to the scoreboard.
He's NorbCam 2.1.
Yeah, he plays piano better than I do. All right, let's go to the scoreboard here. NORBFAM Nation still on top. Go back, go right behind him. Sky High Aviation in 3rd, Stiglitz in 4th, and Archan in 5th. DK's daddy is the highest climber. Commanding leads at 6,000 points, but it's tight though. 64-74, 63-11, and 62-66. Only 100 points separate the top 3 positions, which is pretty cool. But it's going to get tight up here. Here we go. Next question. Number 8. Against which team did Russ cook the most this year based on passing yardage? The Atlanta Falcons, Miami Dolphins, Arizona Cardinals, or the Buffalo Bills? Against which team did Russ cook the most this year based on passing yardage? Falcons, Dolphins, Cardinals, or Bills? Falcons, Dolphins, Cardinals, or Bills? All right, 12 of you got this one correct. It was, in fact, the loss to the Buffalo Bills. Let's go to the panel here. Steezy.
So I knew he had 391 in that game, and now that I'm looking back or thinking back, he had 360 against Miami, but for some reason I thought he threw for over 400 against Miami, so I said Miami, but obviously I got that wrong.
Okay, Squabo.
Honestly, this is the reason that I think one of the most overrated stats in the game is passing yards and how many you have in a game. I agree with Coach Marsh when he's always talking about how I want to see Russell Wilson throwing 230, 260 pass yards in a game. And I want to see us have 2 rushing touchdowns in that game. I knew passing yards were a garbage stat, and that's why I applied them to our most garbage game, the Buffalo Bills, and got it right.
Well, you remember, there was a pass he threw for like 55 yards or something to David Moore, and it was garbage time, and it didn't help.
That was a big one.
You know, but again, like I said, and that's why Matt Ryan, he always piles up the passing yards because they're always behind. They always have to throw their way back into the game in the fourth quarter, and so he piles up those passing yards, but they always lose. Okay, Coach Marsh.
Yeah, so pretty much same philosophy because I had a quarterback years ago who was 3 for 3 in an all everything game because he threw it to the flat 3 times, and the fullback caught the ball and then ended up with about 180 yards receiving. So he literally threw it about 8 yards. So it is overrated. I got it correct because I knew Buffalo, he had 390 something, and I knew he didn't have a 400-yard game this year.
Okay, Martin.
Arizona, those 2 games were mad. The Dolphins game was his lowest during the let Russ cook, well, before the Arizona and the Buffalo game. So it came down to Atlanta and Buffalo. I chose Atlanta because Buffalo is a game I would like to forget, and turns out I did forget it.
So just for the breakdown of that game, he threw for 390 for my record is correct on ProReference.com, Pro Football Reference. 390 against the Bills, 388 against Arizona, 360 against the Dolphins, and 322 against Atlanta. So these are all his 300 yardage games.
Yeah. But he probably had 250 in the fourth quarter against the Bills.
Yeah, probably so, because we were horrible in that game. All right, let's go to the scoreboard here. NorbFam Nation, wow, no changes. Everything's locked. NorbFam Nation was 73-71. Go Pack Go was 72-21. Sky High Aviation 71-53. And then we got Stiglitz making a comeback, 3 in a row. Archan in 5th place. Next question. Number 9. Who did the Seahawks draft in the 2010 NFL Draft with the 6th pick? Russell Okung, Earl Thomas, Aaron Curry, or James Carpenter? Who did the Seahawks draft in the 2010 NFL Draft with the 6th pick? Russell Okung, Earl Thomas, Aaron Curry, or James Carpenter? Time is up. Oh, look at that. The top 2 answers I knew would be tight. It was going to be either between Okung or Earl Thomas, and 21 of you guys got this one correct. Russell Okung was the 6th pick overall in 2010. Let's go to Steezy. I know Steezy's got a good draft memory. Correct?
Earl Thomas went 14th in that year. Russell Okung went 6th. James Carpenter went 25th in 2011, and then Aaron Curry went 4th overall in 2009.
Look at that, man. You're the draft encyclopedia,
Tune into
man.
his draft special coming up. Holy cow.
Man, without a doubt, just spitting facts. All right, so Squabo.
Oh, I didn't know the Carpenter number. I knew the Earl number, I knew the Okung number, and I knew the Curry number. So I did get it right.
All right, wow, you guys are on it. So let's see if the coach is on it. Coach?
Yeah, the only reason I know is because of the Earl. If Earl wasn't in there, I wouldn't have known, but it was the fact that I think people knew that Earl was picked the 2nd pick of that draft with Okung as a lineman. So yes, correct.
All right, Coach goes to 6 points, tied with Steezy. Martin.
Yeah, I'm still in the swamp. I went with Earl. I fell for the bait so bad.
Oh, man, this was not my bait. This was, again, from a BJ1234 who set this question up. A good tricky one. So we got Squabo, been leading this whole game, still in the lead with 8 points, tied Steezy and Coach with 6, and Martin with 3. But we are now entering soon here, double jeopardy time. So it's going to be even more valuable every question from this point on coming up. Let's go to the scoreboard. Still deadlocked. Still no change. Unbelievable. NORBFAM Nation with 82-81. Go Pack Go 81-24. Sky High Aviation 80-63. And then Stiglitz and Archan. Walrus just hit three straight answers. Congratulations, Walrus. Okay, so here we go. Next question. Number 10, worth double. What was Chris Carson's rushing average this season? Yards per attempt. 4.4, 4.8, 3.9, or 5.1? What was Chris Carson's rushing average this season? 4.4, 4.8, 3.9, or 5.1? Time is up. Okay. YouTube knows where it's at. This is a NorbCam question all the way. 4.8 rushing average for Chris Carson. No excuse not to give him the ball more in that game against the Rams. 21 of you guys got that correct on YouTube. Let's go to the panel, starting with Steezy. Steezy, for double points.
I knew it was super close to 5, but I knew it wasn't 5. And so 4.8 was the only logical answer.
Steezy ties the Squabo for the lead for the time being. Squabo.
Precisely the same logic and answer.
Squabo hits double digits with 10. Coach, to stay in the hunt?
Yeah, so they used to say, 3 yards in a cloud of dust, but 4 yards get you paid, and which is why, him at 4 yards. Why are we not giving him the rock? No idea. And I'm a stat nerd, so 4.8 was the number. How are we not giving him the ball more when he's healthy?
All right, good clean answers across the board. Martin.
I was down to 4.4, 4.8, and then my stupid brain told me, hey, keep that slump going, Martin, and pick 3.9. So I went 3.9, and I am the world's biggest slump.
Oh, goodness. Well, you have been out of the game for a while, so you're a little rusty.
And you did go play the piano for a while, too. Like, your brain was doing more work than all of us put together for a while.
That is absolutely right.
I got some.
All right, that's all right. No, you're back. You'll get back into the groove. Well, let's go back to the YouTube scoreboard. Let's see if any changes. Now that we're in double jeopardy here, how the stats change. Oh, slight change, but not much. NorbFam Nation is still at the top, followed by Go Back Go, Sky High Aviation right behind them. Stiglitz in 4th, and FBI got Abker moves up to the 5th spot, and up 18 places. Dot is the highest climber. The most fanciest name ever seen. Dot is the highest climber. I guess, period.
Yeah, I got Abker.
FBI got Abker. That's awesome. All right, next question. Number 11, worth double. What was the Seahawks record this season when Wilson attempted 40-plus throws in a game? 2-2, 3-1, 1-3, 0-4. What was the Seahawks record this game when Wilson attempted 40-plus throws in a game? 2-2, 3-1, 1-3, or 0-4? Time is up. Wow, YouTube. Smart, on point. 1-3 is the correct answer. 18 of you guys on YouTube got that one correct. For those defending the let Russ cook theory, if passing attempts is your thing, the data doesn't exactly back it up. Let's go to Steezy for double.
If there was more time, I feel like I would have got it right. I was still kind of processing through the answers, but I was at 2-2 when time ended. So 2-2 was my answer.
Oh man, you're so honest, but I appreciate that about you, man. All right, sorry you missed that one. Squabo in the lead, could make a commanding one right here.
My gut was telling me 0-4, but then I didn't have time to think about every single loss we had, but I thought about the one game correct me if I'm wrong here, but the reason that I changed my answer from 0-4 was because I didn't think in the Giants game we got off more than 40 passes, meaning that one of our losses wouldn't be with 40-plus passes, so I shifted my answer to 1-3 and got it correct.
Very good logic, my friend. Good logic there. That gives you 12 points. Which, well, still too close to call, but right now with the advantage. But Coach Marsh still within striking distance What do you got?
That's what happens when you lose a grand total of 4 games. You can do that type of stuff, which is somewhat what I did. But I also remember when I came on the first time to the roundtable, the first thing I was saying was, can we stop talking about letting Russ cook and talk about having Russ learn how to use the microwave? Just keep it simple with him. So I knew at that point he had 3, and then the one, because of the extra loss, like Squabble said, that he didn't have 40 passes. So I got that correct. Okay,
so Coach Marsh keeps it close to where he is still within striking range. Martin, just for the sake of principle here, and what you got?
Yeah, process of elimination. I knew he had a losing record. It couldn't have been 0-4, so I went 1-3.
All right. So there you go. So Squabo temporarily in the lead with 12, Coach Marsh with 10, Steezy with 8, and Martin with 5. With 1 question left to go, let's see the YouTube scoreboard. Let's see if anything changes. Oh, in the bottom it does, but the top 3 remain the same.
Look at those top 3.
Look at those scores.
Woo, that's unreal.
NORBFAM Nation with 11,879. Go Pack Go 11,788. Sky High Aviation 11,707. One of the tightest contests we've ever seen. We might have a recount here required. FBI got Abker in 4th with 7,806.
Some band a recount.
Unknown with 7,798. Go Hawks is the highest climber with 23 spots.
Go Pack Go just called me. They want me to find them some extra votes.
Good luck with that. All right, here we go. The final question to find it all out. Here we go. Number 12. Double points. What is the Seahawks franchise overall winning percentage? 57%, 52%, 49%, or 61%? What is the Seahawks franchise overall winning percentage? 57%, 52%, 49%, or 61%? Time is up. Wow. You guys, most of YouTube, guys, this is an easy answer. I'm surprised that you guys knew this one so well. 52% is correct, and 23 seems like it was a simple question.
Final question, right?
This is a final question. This is for everything.
So lowest score to highest.
I know how to do it. I'm not going to mess this up this time. I'm not going to mess it up. All right. So we'll do that. We'll work it back up from low score to high. Martin, since you're on the bottom, here's a chance for you to just get a couple more here for pride's sake.
I had no clue. I narrowed it down to 49, 52. I did not know. I just took a 50-50 guess, and then my stupid brain once again struck again. And so they're like, choose 49, right? So I chose 49, and then I screwed it.
Oh, so you gave him went with the losing record winning percentage here. All right, sorry, Martin. You seem to be just suffering from post-wildcard losing hangover, and your answers seem to be on the low side of things here. All right, Steezy, for a chance to potentially tie Coach, depending on how things play out, but to get into double digits, what say you? What was your guess for the Seahawks overall winning percentage?
Well, to all the fans out there, this isn't the way you want to go out, but I'm not even going to lie. I didn't have an answer for this one. So I was just going through all of them, and by the time ended, I just didn't even have an answer.
Did you turn around trying to call a timeout after the play clock ran down to 0?
I tried to, but I don't have any more timeouts. So.
Oh man, were you leaning to one though? Here, was there an answer that you were kind of thinking was the one? I mean, you must have had it down to 50-50.
I looked at 60. I looked at the 60, and I was just like, yeah, I like that number, but that was kind of the only one I really got to look at. So yeah,
Okay, all right. Well, sorry, man.
Was it 62? Yeah, I guess I would have said 62 if I had an answer. But.
Yeah. All right. Well, the correct answer was 52%. So, yeah. All right. Tough one there. All right. So now, of course, we go to Coach Marsh with the potential tying answer here to give Squabble a run for the money. Coach Marsh.
And I so wish we could hear Squabbo's rationale first, because it may change based on what I'm going to say, because I would love to hear how he comes about his answer on this one. So I
can go first. You want me to go first?
Just because I just want to hear how you rationalize this, because I want to know how deep my boots need to be before I pull them out of the BS you're about to say on how you came up with an answer that's really a real answer here, other than a guess. So I know you'll have something good.
So with this question, instantly, just thinking back down the history of the franchise, we struggled early on. We struggled in the early 2000s. We struggled a lot throughout our franchise. So I took 61 and 57 off the board. It was between 52 and 49.
As did I. So just so you know, so did I.
Okay, we're on the same page. Then I was thinking about, we've played 20 years since the decade, played 24 before. Based on that logic, I went with 49 and got it wrong.
Oh my goodness. So Squabo misses the answer, leaving the door open for Coach Marsh to tie this and send it into overtime, or a tie, however we want to call it. So
I eliminated the extended 2 as well, based on the question's only interesting if it's close to 50%. So those 2 numbers make it intriguing. The reason I didn't use your theory is that amount of years has no bearing on whether this would be 52 or 49. But I did think about the fact that we lost so often in my childhood, so many tears, so many Monday morning blues where I hated going to school, which is why I also chose 49% for my answer.
So in a strange twist of events, it's one of those games where nobody got the answer right, and by default, Squabo is the winner with 12 points. Coach unable to send it to overtime. He misses the last-minute field goal, wide right. And
it's kind of a microcosm to the Seahawks macrocosm, right? Like we're all losers right now. We're just all losers.
Except Squabo. Squabo's not the loser. Squabo's the winner.
The last question, we kind of all went out.
I feel like Ron Rivera.
Yeah, it's like that.
I feel like Ron Rivera.
It's true. The last game, you guys all choked and nobody got a point here. It was just sad. So you sort of just slid into the winning circle without ever swinging the bat. But, well, congratulations, Squabo. You still won based on the points. I'm proud of myself because I came up with this question and I thought very hard about how I would think of the other numbers. And their overall record, just for the record, is 367 and 340 and 1. 367, 340 and 1, which translates into roughly 52%. So, in case you're wondering.
Gosh, imagine if you'd asked this question last year, how close. I mean, that'd be like a 50.5 to 49. It would be a recount.
It would be really close.
Recount the wins.
Yeah, it would be really close. If we didn't include this past season. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it would be very, very close. Maybe 2 years. All right, congratulations, Squabs. You are the winner this week. Let's go to the scoreboard on YouTube. Let's find out who the winner was there, who's going to potentially make an appearance here tomorrow. Let's see. In third place, Sky High Aviation. In second place with 12 out of 13. Go Pack Go, which means in first place with perfect score of 12 out of 12. NORBFAM Nation. Wow. Every unknown and Nomo Shadi are the runner-ups. But all three of these participants had perfect scores.
Wow.
How is that possible? How is it possible?
It came down to the end of how fast you went.
You guys are some fast typers, man.
How many times Rishi's won 6 times. Like, he's the Ken Jennings of this.
Rishi was the champ? Rishi won it?
I feel bad for Sky High. He literally got every question right and came in third.
He wasn't as quick with the Google hit.
Yeah. It's like those people on Jeopardy they're pushing their thumb button really fast, but
it's like
Beck wouldn't call on them, right? The thumb button's really crazy. And
that is really impressive. I don't know if we've ever done one where everybody got on the top 3 got every single question right. And these were not easy questions.
That's crazy.
I mean, if you were to see the result, you'd think this would be like the easiest trivia questions anymore. Like, who's the starting quarterback of the Seattle Seahawks? Jim Zorn? You'd think it'd be some simple one.
That's what Google was for, Norb.
What's that?
I'm just kidding. No, I'm just trolling. But I said that's what Google is for. But.
They had to be fast.
I'm just kidding.
Here's the thing. Here's what's most impressive, though, is that so again, thanks to BJ1234 for helping set up this trivia. I went through and changed a lot of the questions, so I had a few years in there, but I intentionally made questions that you couldn't just find super easy. Okay, like the one where what was their what was Wilson's record
attempts one.
with 40 attempts or more? You can't just Google that. I don't think that one you can just type in and find, right? Some are easy, like you just look up the winning percentage. That one's actually pretty quick to find. But some, I try to make it to where you had to kind of do a little bit of extra digging, and it's not just the surface. And that's still impressive that these three guys did it. And Sky High Aviation's always in there. Rishi's always in there. I'm not sure who Go Pack Go is. I don't know who the real identity of Go Pack Go is, or if Go Pack Go is just some random person who came in from, who's a Packer fan who just invaded in here. But
someone who came from Tom Grossi.
What's that?
Someone who came from Tom Grossi.
Yeah, right. But if that's a Packer fan who just popped in here for giggles and just thought they'd try their luck at Seahawks trivia, that's pretty impressive. If a Packers fan actually came in here and knew all these answers. But man,
or they could just be rooting against the Rams.
Well, that's true. That's true. They could be a Seahawks fan just rooting against the Rams, which I think most of us probably are. Either way, that's very impressive. So, yeah, congratulations to all you guys. That is amazing. And Squabble got 12 points, but that's not 12 questions. That's 12 points with doubles. So these guys got perfect answers, and the only thing that separated them was the speed at which they hit that clicker. And that might have just been a Comcast issue. Who knows? But that's awesome. That is unbelievable. All right. Well, fun trivia, man. It was tight to the end. It was one of our best ones yet. But anyway, that brings us to the end of our show. And so at this point, as I always like to, I guess we lost Steezy. Steezy gone? Well, I'm going to give you guys a chance to at least talk about your channels and what you guys got going on. So Squabble, why don't you start first?
Yeah. My channel is at DJSQUABO on YouTube. I'm doing another watch party this weekend. I'm not sure which game yet. I might do multiple games for the divisional round. Now that I don't really have a horse on the race, it's going to be a lot easier to be, even keel throughout the stream. Had a lot of fun having Coach Marsh on the stream and doing the collab with Norb, of course. This week, I am going to be dropping a video in the next couple of days, and it's going to be about what Seattle needs to do to fix ourselves this offseason and how we can fix ourselves moving forward, and kind of talk about the things we did wrong this year and how we can improve Seattle's moving forward. I don't have the exact title for that yet, but it will come out in the next 2 days. Be prepared.
All right. Oops, sorry about that. The screen's glitching out. All right, there we go. So let's go to Seahawks Martin. Martin, why don't you go tell everybody what you're up to on your side of YouTube and social media?
I have to run soon. But yeah, my channel's basically like all of their channels, minus the fan reactions live, because I don't really feel in the mood for that. But I just do Seahawks coverage. I used to every week. I would have 3 keys and then a game reaction. But since the season's over, I might start posting more comedy, sports comedy, stuff NFL related, because it had some good reviews the last time I did those. But
you got to get more. You got to put more piano videos, man. I'm telling you, man. You got gold.
Okay, I'll do so.
Put more piano, man. I'm telling you, that's your secret. Forget about the Seahawks. Just play the piano, man. These guys will go crazy. I'm just kidding. Do both. Do both.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we just hit like 700 subs. That's pretty cool. On the road to 1K. But yeah, thanks for having me, Norb. Thanks for having me, Noah, Coach, Calvin, Brian. And yeah, I'll see you guys next week, but I got to run.
All right. Thanks for stopping by, Martin. Always appreciate it, brother.
There he goes.
All right. So, Coach Marsh, you've got the last word.
Hey, so before I even say my final piece, we had so many things to talk about that, a couple of weeks ago, we talked about the situation in Philadelphia. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention one of the most amazing things I ever seen in the NFL, and that was the Cleveland Browns doing what they did. So there's still some really neat stuff going on. That's what makes the playoffs so great. So I just love this game. Love that you brought me out to do this type of stuff, Norb. I hope everybody supports those guys, but I'm super excited from a standpoint of video creations are starting. Some things are happening. Got some things in the works. In the week of the Super Bowl, I'll be dropping a couple videos and doing some other things. So really, really amped. And Norb, I've said it many times, but man, I wouldn't have done it without you and the help of Squabble and Steezy and the motivation I get from watching Seahawks Martin's videos and Abka's just been great to connect with and talk on the side. So just really, really excited about what's going on. But again, thanks to you. Appreciate the sponsor for sponsoring your show. Just lots of fun stuff.
Yes, and thank you for that transition. I got to say thank you again to my sponsor, Daniel Dovin of Dovin Real Estate. There he is. Daniel, we're actually going to do, he's going to join the panel tomorrow just to, again, talk about the Seahawks, state of the Seahawks and what's going moving forward. But if you guys do have any Seattle needs in terms of real estate, from buying or selling a home, please contact Daniel Dovin of Dovin Real Estate. He's a great guy, huge Seahawks fan, and he really knows his stuff. And if you set up a consultation with him for free, you'll be entered in for a drawing to win a Cortez Kennedy rookie card and possibly some DK Metcalf swag. So go give Daniel Dovin a call. Appreciate your support, Daniel. And also, Steezy had to go early, I guess, so he didn't get to do his pitch. But please, Steezy's, check out Steezy A. Smith and look up all of their social media and YouTube channels in the description. Brian Abker as well. Thanks to him for joining as well, at Abker on Twitter. And please support all these guys. We're all working together. I like to think of us as sort of like our own little mini Avengers, where we're all like our own little guys who are doing our own things, but we come together as a force together to try to do some stuff and work together and bring each other up. So you can help us bring ourselves up as well by just supporting us, hitting those subscribe and like buttons and following us. We would greatly appreciate it. So special thanks to everybody in the Super Chat. You guys were awesome in there. A lot of support, a lot of great questions and comments. I tried to get to every single one of them. So thank you for doing that. To all the NorbFam members, I know we got a new one this week, or today. So thank you for joining. Cool. I appreciate all the NorbFam members. You guys are awesome. And just to everybody watching the video today, it was a long one, but I hope you enjoyed it. Feel free to comment and let us know what you think. Other things you'd like to hear us talk about, we greatly appreciate it. So thanks again, you guys. To my guests, I guess Squabo and Bill, you're the last ones here. So thank you guys for always making the time to be here. And Seahawks.
Hey, let's dub the subs for Norb, man. Let's get him to 100K by the end of 2021 or whatever. I don't know what your goal. Maybe your goal's higher than that, but let's get this thing going for this guy. Yeah, everybody deserves to see him.
Trying to get to 50, yeah. So that's the next goal. I'm getting inching closer. So every little sub helps.
That's what I'm saying. Let's dub those subs, but get to 100K by the end of 2021.
That would be awesome.
And beyond.
All right. Thanks, guys. Have a great rest of your week. More videos again coming this week. Look for all of our stuff. Appreciate you guys. Have a great week and go Hawks.